Hey truckers, today we're seeing My Dad is My Mom's Mortal Enemy Part 6. Let's dive into the video. Qing Liqi excitedly pulled her mom's hand and jumped up and down. She had guessed her dad and mom's secret. Mom, am I clever or not? On the other end of the screen, Xiao Qingze unconsciously held his breath. Qing Jinlan wiped the sweat beading on the tip of her daughter's nose and replied. Yes, clever. Qing Liqi was very excited. Tomorrow was Saturday and she didn't need to go to school. She had already stayed up late tonight after video chatting with her dad, and now she was even less inclined to sleep. She snuggled up in her mom's arms as they squeezed together in one bed, staring up at the little stars on the ceiling. She called out, Mom. Qing Jinlan stroked her long hair. What's up? Qing Liqi rolled over and leaned on her mom's shoulder. I'm so happy. Qing Jinlan gently asked, Why are you so happy? Qing Liqi replied, Because Dad knows how to make you happy now. Otherwise, why would Mom want to date Dad? He must have learned how to make Mom happy. It was her who taught Dad how to make Mom happy. She really was an amazing little teacher. Qing Liqi scooted closer to her mom. Mom, were you very happy when you were with Dad? Qing Jinlan put her arms around her little girl and pulled a blanket over the two of them. Little Liqi, aren't you sleepy? Mom is so tired. Let's sleep. Qing Liqi wasn't the least bit sleepy, but it seemed like her mom was shy. So she would just have to pretend to be sleepy too. She snuggled into a comfortable spot in her mom's arms and had just closed her eyes when she thought of something else. Mom, when Dad gets back from his business trip, let's go pick him up at the airport. Qing Jinlan gently patted her back, murmuring indistinctly in agreement without definitively saying yes or no. Under her mom's rhythmic patting, Qing Liqi quickly drifted into sweet dreams. A phone screen lit up in the darkness. It was a long while before Qing Jinlan reached out to grab her phone and glance at the incoming message. I'm boarding now, sweet dreams. Qing Jinlan breathed a sigh of relief that he hadn't kept asking what she meant by praising their clever daughter. Of course Xiao Qingze wouldn't keep pursuing confirmation. That would just be hitting himself in the foot. He had automatically adjusted his position, reporting his safe landing, sending photos from the hotel, saying good morning in the morning and sweet dreams at night, right on time. Even though she gave no response at all, that was better than being blocked in some cases, during this gradual process of testing the waters. On the fourth day, Xiao Qingze had to transfer flights to another country for his schedule. The flight wasn't supposed to be too long, but they encountered heavy rain at the destination and had to divert to another city for an emergency landing. By the time they finally landed, it was the middle of the night at home and she must have already gone to bed. Xiao Qingze debated for a second between sending a message or not, but in the end chose to explain the situation that day. After sending a long paragraph, surprisingly he got a response, just one line, You're so annoying. But that message was immediately withdrawn. A clear light flashed through Xiao Qingze's pitch-dark eyes, and the corners of his lips slowly curved up. No response would have been better than taking back the response, at least it showed something, during this gradual process of testing the waters. He pretended not to have seen her message and asked, What did you take back? After a few minutes, Qing Jinlan replied, Nothing, wrong number. The smile at the corners of Xiao Qingze's mouth deepened. Why aren't you asleep yet? Qing Jinlan also wondered why she still couldn't fall asleep. She tossed and turned in bed but just couldn't feel sleepy. She blamed it on drinking too much coffee during the day, definitely no other reason. Most up-to-date NVELs are published on n0velgen.co/m. Xiao Qingze called her. After ringing for a while, she picked up but switched it to a voice call. He spoke first, Can't sleep because you had too much coffee today? There was a brief silence on the phone before Qing Jinlan forced out Xiao Qingze asked, Lying in bed? Qing Jinlan didn't answer. Questions she didn't answer were generally yes. Xiao Qingze softened his voice alluringly, Close your eyes now. His low, husky, magnetic voice took on an intentional coaxing tone that made people want to follow his words involuntarily, as if under a spell. Qing Jinlan forced her eyes wide open. Why would I close my eyes? Perhaps because they had been apart for too long, with too many blanks and barriers in between. No matter what he said, she would subconsciously retort to spite him. Her response was a gentle humming tune, transmitted through the wireless signals to sound exceptionally gentle in the dark night. Qing Jinlan couldn't help muttering sarcastically, don't you only know this one song? Xiao Qingzhe chuckled softly. If you want to hear something else, I'll learn more and sing them for you next time. Qing Jinlan shut her mouth. She hadn't realized before that he was probably the smoothest suck-up under the sun. Of course Xiao Qingzhe knew more than just the one song, but this one seemed most effective on her. The soft humming made the night even more tranquil. Qing Jinlan's eyelids gradually drooped until she fell into a dreamless, restful sleep, waking up feeling lazy and relaxed. She hugged her thin quilt and blearily gazed up at the ceiling, unusually wanting to laze around a bit longer today. She didn't want to move or get up until the shadow cast by the sunlight on the curtains shifted direction. Only then did Qing Jinlan nudge the quilt off with her feet, wiggle her legs and shake her arms. She straightened her body to stretch out a satisfying lazy waist, arching her back and letting her loose black tresses cascade onto the bed, revealing smooth, fair shoulders and a beautiful unfolding butterfly back as she unwittingly let out a soft hum. Awake? A voice suddenly came from the phone by her pillow. Qing Jinlan froze and slowly turned her head to see a timer quickly flipping up on the screen. So this call had been on all night? Xiao Qingzhe asked, did I startle you? Qing Jinlan responded, what time is it over there? It should be very late for him now. Almost dawn. Why aren't you asleep yet? Meaning, she was about to hang up. I just got out of a meeting. I saw the time and thought I'd say good morning before going to bed since you're probably about to wake up. Good morning, honey. He paused briefly before wishing her, good morning. Both sides fell silent. In this quiet, Qing Jinlan seemed to hear the pitter-patter of water, not rain, more like. She asked lowly, what are you doing? Xiao Qingzhe replied, I'm taking a shower. His voice was like whispering sweet nothings to a lover in the dead of night. And, thinking of you. Qing Jinlan took a deep breath, about to say something. Her lips moved a few times before she decisively slapped her phone shut. There was no way he was thinking pure thoughts about her while showering. 2 messages came in quick succession on Xiao Qingzhe's phone. Don't you dare think about me. You shameless dog. Xiao Qingzhe dried his hair with a towel, looking at the messages on his phone. He couldn't help laughing aloud. He had indeed been showering, but was already finished by the time she woke up. Although he missed her very much, and especially imagining her waking up, then hearing that alluring hum like a cat's meow, it would be unnatural not to react. But he still had enough self-control not to resort to self-relief over the phone. He just couldn't resist teasing her a little. She probably didn't even realize that she was growing more and more relaxed around him, gradually accepting him. This change made him extremely happy. He sent her flight details. Shameless dog plus shameless scoundrel, arriving afternoon after tomorrow. Coming to pick me up at the airport? He still remembered the scene of her and little Liqui going to pick up Yan Ran. He had fantasized about that scene too, at the time. Qing Jinlan coldly burst his fantasy bubble. No, I'm not your chauffeur. All right, Xiao Qingzhe didn't insist. If not this time, there would be a next, and a time after that. Whether dreams or fantasies, there would come a day they turned real. Today Qing Jinlan had to take Qing Liqui to get a haircut. The hot summer made the little girl dislike staying cooped up inside all the time. She loved frolicking around outside, but her thick hair clung heavily to her head and soon worked up a sweat. After consulting her daughter's opinion, Qing Jinlan decided to cut it shorter, getting a trim herself as well. Exiting the salon, the mother and daughter's waist-length hair had become medium bobs at shoulder length. Qing Liqui looked up at her mom. Mom, you look so pretty. Qing Jinlan bent down to lift her into the car. Little Liqui looks prettier. Qing Liqui's crescent eyes crinkled in a smile as she shook her new hairdo. She really liked this new style. Mom, should we take a picture and send it to Dad? Let's see if Dad can still recognize us. Qing Jinlan buckled her in and tidied her skirt. No need for pictures. He'll be back tomorrow so he can see us then. Qing Liqui's eyes lit up. Dad's coming back tomorrow? Mom, are we going to pick up Dad? Qing Jinlan asked, do you want to go pick him up? Qing Liqui replied, I miss Dad. If we go pick him up, we can see him sooner. Seeing her daughter's bright eyes, Qing Jinlan finally gave a slight nod of agreement. Qing Liqui's smile grew even bigger. She hugged her mom's neck, the undisguised gossip glinting in her eyes. Mom, you miss Dad too, don't you? Qing Jinlan twisted her little nose. Do you want ice cream or not? Qing Liqui's eyes widened. I can have some today? You can share one with Mom today. Qing Liqui cheered, yay! I love you most, Mom. Not far away, a black car was parked with a silver-haired elderly woman and middle-aged man inside. The silver-haired woman was Wu Jingyao, old Mr. Xiao's second wife. Wu Jingyao was over 70 now but looked barely over 50 thanks to meticulous maintenance. Her features were so stiff from procedures that her hooded phoenix eyes looked fierce when expressionless. The middle-aged man was Xiao Zhongting, Xiao Qing's second uncle. At first glance he seemed refined and gentle, but his eyes were perpetually bleary from indulging in wine and women, as murky as muddy rainwater. Xiao Zhongting said resentfully, Mom, you're not letting us take any action, and we've been behaving ourselves these past few days without doing anything at all, but Dad doesn't seem to have any reaction to what happened with Xiao Qingze. If this continues, the Xiao family will really become his. Once the old man passes away, there will be no one left to control him, and with his wolf-hearted, ungrateful nature, he will definitely kick us out of the house. You've served the old man for most of your life, but in the end you'll just be left out in the cold. There's no justification for this. Wu Jingyao glared at him. Shut your mouth. I have my own plans. You just make sure Jingyun doesn't go out causing trouble again. As long as he doesn't stir up any more problems for me. Both her son and grandson were good-for-nothings who were all talk and no action. She had worked hard to get the cake, only to have it snatched away at the last moment. How could she have given birth to such a useless son, and even her grandson was useless? Wu Jingyao watched Qing Jinlan's retreating figure and let out a cold snort. She was a good judge of character. Xiao Qingze didn't take after his father at all. He was cold-hearted and unfeeling, but deep down he valued relationships more than anyone. Otherwise, he would never have returned to the Xiao family. She knew exactly how she had gotten rid of his father back then, and now she would do the same to get rid of him. She had prepared a big gift for Xiao Qingze, she just needed to pick the right time to give it to him. That night after her shower, Qing Jinlan was blow-drying Qing Liqui's hair. Qing Liqui was counting on her little fingers, asking her mother which dress she should wear to the airport tomorrow to pick up Dad. She had just spent time trying on all her new dresses and picked out her top 3 favorites, but she still hadn't decided which one to wear tomorrow. Before she even picked out a dress, she suddenly remembered she also needed to prepare a bouquet of flowers. She started chattering excitedly again, but gradually fell silent as she drifted off to sleep mid-sentence. She had slept little last night and was feeling drowsy earlier than usual today. Qing Jinlan carried her daughter to bed and tucked her in quietly before slipping out of the room. She didn't feel like blow-drying her own hair and went out to the balcony to let it air dry naturally. Right on time at 10 p.m., her phone lit up, but instead of a message, it was a phone call. He really was getting more and more presumptuous. She had only taken one phone call from him last night, yet today he confidently called her again. Qing Jinlan picked up the call, about to make a sarcastic remark. But Xiao Qingze spoke first. Meow meow, I'm back. Qing Jinlan froze. Xiao Qingze was standing outside the door, looking at the lit courtyard. Are you going to let me in? Qing Jinlan. He was even more presumptuous than she had imagined. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse, the night wind blew gently. Qing Jinlan flatly refused, no. Xiao Qingze coughed lightly twice, sounding very weak. I was up all night, and flew for dozens of hours. My stomach feels very uncomfortable. I couldn't eat anything on the plane. I just kept thinking about drinking a bowl of porridge cooked by you. Qing Jinlan didn't fall for his scheme. If your stomach is uncomfortable, go take medicine. If you want to drink porridge, you can order takeout. Xiao Qingze laughed gently, hitting his own face very quickly. All right, you saw through me. I admit that my stomachache is just an excuse. Qing Jinlan scoffed, her meaning very obvious, scoffing that he was not only a rogue, but also a liar. Meow meow, he sighed softly, the unfinished tenderness in his long drawn-out voice. I missed you, let me see you, okay? The subtle breathing on the phone paused for a moment, followed by the sound of the call being hung up. Xiao Qingze looked at the yard, which instantly went dark, and couldn't help but reveal a hint of a wry smile at the corner of his lips. He was too impatient. Under the bright moon, it cast long shadows of people. Xiao Qingze leaned against the wall with his palm on his stomach, thinking about where he should go next. His home was right next door, but he didn't want to go back. He was already so close, yet he was still greedily wanting to be a little closer. After who knows how long, the moon hid behind the clouds, and the sparse stars could not illuminate much light. The night sky fell into complete darkness, with dead silence all around, only occasional dog barks in the distance to keep him company. The door creaked open halfway. Xiao Qingzhe looked over abruptly. Qing Jinlan leaned against the door with one hand, looking up at him lightly. "Why don't you leave?" she asked him. He stood at the door for so long, and she watched him on the screen for just as long. Reason told her, whatever he was doing, let him stand for as long as he wanted, it would be best if he got bitten by mosquitoes all over his face. But in the end, she still stepped out one step at a time. Xiao Qingzhe wrapped his arms tightly around her, tightly without leaving a gap between them. "How could I leave and still get to see you?" Qing Jinlan's hands hung loosely around her waist, a familiar scent lingered around her nose, her gaze was slightly blurred, fixed somewhere behind him. "Now that you've seen me, you can leave." Xiao Qingzhe lifted his head to look at her seriously. "Seeing you makes me want to leave even less." Qing Jinlan met his gaze, quickly looked away again, her flat tone revealed no emotion. "Then you can stand guard here yourself, I'm going back in." Xiao Qingzhe grabbed her hand and circled it around his waist, not letting her leave. His eyes swept over her hair. "Did you cut your hair?" Find the new ST ovals on n/velben.com. He was very hot, the heat transmitted through his clothes was scorching. Qing Jinlan lowered her long lashes, shielding the emotions in her eyes, and replied, "What's it to you?" Xiao Qingzhe chuckled softly, "I just wanted to say, it looks very good, it looked good before the cut, and it still looks good now." His slender fingers ran through the hair draped over her shoulders, caressing the fair nape of her neck, touching upwards bit by bit, holding the back of her head, leaning in close, and biting her red lips, murmuring in a low voice, "Our President Qing looks good no matter what." Qing Jinlan just lost herself for a moment under his gentle fingertips, and by the time she regained her senses, she had already fallen into his mouth. Not just their lips and tongues, but their breaths and heartbeats were completely under his control. Qing Jinlan struggled for a moment, but was soon engulfed by the turbulent heat, her breathing hurried and chaotic. Xiao Qingzhe felt her response, the stormy eyes instantly stirred up a raging storm, his arm gripped her slender waist tightly, wishing he could press her into his body, engraved on his heart, never leaving for even a moment. In this frenzy of dying, Qing Jinlan's hand touched his bare skin at his waist, noticing something wrong. She pinched his waist and exerted some force. Xiao Qingzhe's breathing receded a little, and the delicate kisses went down along the corner of her lips, wrapping around her moon-white jade collarbone. Qing Jinlan gently tilted her neck back, catching her breath for a moment. She placed her palm on his forehead, confirming that his temperature was indeed abnormally high. "You have a fever." Xiao Qingzhe returned to her lips again, leaning against her breath. There was clear grievance in his still aroused eyes. "My stomach really is uncomfortable, I'm not lying to you, nor am I using crocodile tears." Qing Jinlan was silent for a second, patting the arm clasped around her waist. "Let me go." Xiao Qingzhe held her even tighter. "You don't believe me?" She still hadn't caught her breath, and being hugged so tightly by him again took her breath away. Qing Jinlan forcibly pried his arms open. "If your stomach is uncomfortable you should take medicine, I'm not medicine." Xiao Qingzhe was stunned for a moment, then laughed out loud, lifting her by the waist onto himself. She was taller than him, so he had to look up at her. The moon had escaped from the dark clouds and was recast over the earth, spilling silvery light that rippled into her eyes, accentuating the smudge of rouge that overflowed from the corner of her eyes even more bewitching. To him, she was more effective than medicine. Compared to medicine, he wanted to eat her even more. But he probably shouldn't say that, or she would surely get angry. "I'm out of medicine at my place." He stated a fact. Qing Jinlan denied him the possibility of entering the house. "You wait here, I'll go get you some. I want to drink porridge." He took her hand and pressed it against his stomach. "My stomach is completely empty, I haven't eaten anything since last night." Qing Jinlan stared at him motionlessly. Xiao Qingzhe stared back unwaveringly. After a long time, Qing Jinlan spoke up, "I can provide you with a pot and rice. If you want to eat, make it yourself. Don't expect me to make it for you." Xiao Qingzhe's smile lit up half the starry sky. "Okay." Having done it once, the second try was much smoother. Xiao Qingzhe entered the house, put his suitcase in the entrance, changed into slippers by himself, washed his hands in the bathroom by himself. He didn't need anyone to guide him, he even knew where the pots and rice were located, because this was the second time he had entered this kitchen. "Is little Laquia asleep?" He tied on an apron by himself. "Yes." Qing Jinlan put the medicine and water on the table, then stopped bothering with him anymore, and went into the study to work on her own things. Not long after, a light fragrance drifted out from outside. Qing Jinlan's eyes lingered on the computer screen. Her stomach also growled in response. She had eaten very full at dinner and didn't know when her stomach had become so lacking in integrity that it could be enticed by a bowl of porridge. There was a light double knock at the door. Qing Jinlan looked up to see Xiao Qingzhe push open the door, carrying 2 bowls of porridge as he walked over. Qing Jinlan said, "I'm not eating, just go eat by yourself. After you finish eating, don't clean up. The housekeeper will come to clean tomorrow. You can just leave directly." But as soon as she finished speaking, her stomach let out an untimely gurgle. Qing Jinlan paused, and a little unease appeared on her originally cold face. Xiao Qingzhe pretended not to have heard and placed the porridge on the table before sitting down across from her. "I made too much, just keep me company and eat a little bit with me. Eating alone always feels a little bleak." Qing Jinlan's eyebrows twitched slightly. "Don't you eat alone at home?" "Eating alone at home is one thing, but you're here with me now." Xiao Qingzhe stirred the porridge with a spoon, scooped up a spoonful, blew on it slowly, then held it across the table to her mouth. "It's not hot anymore, have a taste?" Before Qing Jinlan's stomach could make another sound, she opened her mouth and the porridge was fed in. It really was just plain porridge, without any flavor. But it smelled really good. "How is it?" He looked at her, his eyes full of anticipation. Qing Jinlan doused him in cold water. "No matter how fancy you make plain porridge, it can only be tasteless white porridge." Xiao Qingzhe used the spoon she had used to scoop himself a spoonful and put it in his mouth. "I feel like it smells really good." Before Qing Jinlan could say anything, the bowl filled with porridge was held out again. "Have another taste, you'll slowly be able to taste the flavor." Looking at his earnest eyes, she suddenly felt irritated. Impatiently, she stretched out her hand to block the spoon. "I said I'm not eating anymore. Hurry up and leave after you finish eating." As a result, the porridge and the spoon spilled out, all landing on the back of his hand. Qing Jinlan froze for a moment as she looked at the mess all over his hand, then got up, pulled out some paper towels, placed them over his hand, and haphazardly wiped him clean, also apologizing. "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize." Xiao Qingzhe took her hand in his, went to her side to find her downcast gaze. "Let's talk." Though he said he wanted to talk, he didn't know where to start. Seeing her slightly furrowed brows, Xiao Qingzhe gently asked, "Jinlan, do you hate me very much?" After a long silence, a hint of emptiness flashed in Qing Jinlan's eyes. "If I really hated you that much, I wouldn't let you bully me like this. I must be beyond saving." She saw through his probing and tricks, but knew she was slowly giving in to him approaching her again, even if she wouldn't admit it to herself. Even if she knew that what lay between them was more misunderstanding than hatred, how could years of resentment dissipate in an instant? Rather than hate, she felt lost and confused about how to interact with him now. She didn't know how to get along with him, and though she allowed him to get close, she wasn't clear on how close or how much she should let him in. In their youth she could be reckless and fearless, but now older and more mature, she had lost that courage. She held his face in her hands, looking deep into his eyes. "Qingzhe, don't lie to me again. If there was a next time, it would only lead to death between them." In that moment, endless joy flashed in Xiao Qingzhe's dark eyes, a captivating light. He leaned in to kiss her lips. "All right, I promise." It was a long kiss. Qing Jinlan was standing on the floor at first, and then lifted onto the table by him. He leaned over her, their lips and tongues entwined. She gradually lost her strength and leaned softly against him, allowing him to take as he pleased. Qing Jinlan regained some clarity and stopped his wandering hands with a soft exhale. "Don't." Xiao Qingzhe's hand stilled, his lips pressed against hers, vaguely kissing her, one kiss seamlessly beginning the next. Qing Jinlan felt her heart stirred by something, both itchy and sour. Her consciousness grew hazy too. She wanted him to stop but also to continue, to be rougher yet also gentler. "Does it hurt?" Xiao Qingzhe stopped and looked at her. Qing Jinlan bit her lips silently, her bright eyes grew misty like the fog over a mountain stream. With a slight exertion from him, the mist stirred, raising captivating ripples. Xiao Qingzhe's fingertips pressed against her lips, rescuing the soft redness from between glistening white teeth. His voice grew increasingly hoarse, carrying fiery temptation. "Meow meow, tell me what you want me to do." Qing Jinlan ruthlessly bit down on his fingers. "I want you to go away." Xiao Qingzhe chuckled hoarsely. Of all Chang's body, her mouth is the hardest place to kiss soft. He gently sucked on the corner of her lips. "Since you won't tell me what to do, I'll just do as I please. Her thick lashes fluttered rapidly, and Qing Jinlan pushed his shoulders, wanting to escape from the table. Xiao Qingze's long legs came close to the table's edge, blocking her path. Qing Jinlan glared at him. Xiao Qingze kissed her angry eyes, one arm curled around her waist to lift her onto himself, and walked out of the study into the bedroom. Qing Jinlan struggled, her voice unintentionally soft and coquettish. You can't, you have a fever. I've taken medicine and had porridge. Qing Jinlan continued shaking her head, refusing to let him touch her bed. You were on a plane all day without showering. Xiao Qingze headed straight for the bathroom, pushing open the door and placing her on the sink counter, one hand undoing the buttons of his shirt. Together. The most up-to-date novels are published on n0velg.n.co/m. The shirt came off, and under the lights, Qing Jinlan's gaze froze briefly. She lifted a foot to block his approach, avoiding his gaze. No, we don't have. Xiao Qingze grasped her fair hand, his dark gaze changing. So I'll help you. Does it hurt? Steam filled the bathroom, fogging up the mirrors with condensation that obscured their lingering reflection. Muffled panting was interspersed with bewitching whispers. Did you miss me? Hot air caressed her ear. Qing Jinlan shook her head, a blush creeping up her cheeks. The snowy skin revealed an alluring pink hue, dewdrops threatened to fall from dark lashes. Xiao Qingze suddenly halted his actions, only using his lips to catch the beads of sweat on her forehead. I missed you very much. You didn't even come to the airport to pick me up. Qing Jinlan opened her eyes to look at him. They were misty like a shimmering spring lake under the dappled shade, revealing glimpses of a verdant green. Her arms, damp with perspiration, circled his neck and exerted a slight force. She vaguely called his name, Xiao Qingze. He lowered his head to ask again, Did you miss me? Qing Jinlan shook her head again. Tears welled up at the corners of her eyes, still refusing to utter the word miss. Xiao Qingze changed his question, Will you come to the airport to pick me up in the future? Qing Jinlan rested her head against his chest. Emptiness and itchiness consumed her mind and body. She took a sharp breath, biting back the soft plea that threatened to spill from her throat. Xiao Qingze chuckled lightly. Her stubbornness and refusal to give in was truly arousing, making him want to pamper her and also torment her severely. He took a step back, extending an olive branch to himself. I'm not asking for much, just once will do. Okay? His lips brushed against the corners of her eyes, tasting the sweet yet sour tears. Who told you to come back early? Every taut nerve in Qing Jinlan's body was drawn to an almost unbearable point. Still, she forced out a mocking tone. Xiao Qingze was stunned, seemingly unable to believe what he just heard. You're coming to the airport to pick me up tomorrow? Not me, Qing Liqui. The sweat had ruined her fringe. Qing Jinlan grew increasingly uncomfortable, kicking his arm with her foot. Get out. The frustration in her voice could no longer be concealed. Liar, he said he'd help her but left her hanging in this unresolved state instead, wanting her to beg him. The unexpected reply left Xiao Qingze distracted for a moment. He felt somewhat regretful for pulling an all-nighter to settle all his work, then rushing back eagerly. Otherwise, he would have gotten a pleasant surprise at the airport tomorrow. But now, with the sweet softness in his arms, and the coquettish anger by his ear, it was something that nothing could replace. There were gains and losses. As long as he obtained what was at hand, the things lost could always be reclaimed later. Qing Jinlan finally succumbed beneath the surging tides. Her scattered moans grew louder and more frequent. From the bathroom to the bed, the clock struck midnight as they returned to the bedroom. Qing Jinlan covered herself with a thin blanket, looking at the man by the bed. You should go. Her languid voice was hoarse, evidencing what had just happened in the bathroom. Xiao Qingze looked at the woman who was about to go back on her word after getting her way. He got on the bed and gathered her into his embrace. Where would I go? Qing Jinlan currently had not an ounce of strength left in her body. She just wanted to fall asleep immediately. With great effort, she opened her eyes wide. Go back to your own home. You can't stay the night here. Not just for today, but never again in the future. She couldn't let Qing Liqui see him, otherwise with her astute personality, her daughter would surely ask many difficult questions. Of course Xiao Qingze understood her concerns. He gently patted her shoulder, coaxing her to sleep. I'll be gone before Liqui wakes up. She won't find out. Qing Jinlan could no longer keep her heavy eyelids open. You'd better, she thought of something and forced her eyes open again. You have to leave before dawn. My dad goes jogging in the mornings, he can't run into you. Xiao Qingzi smiled helplessly, his low voice full of indulgence. All right, shall we just dig a secret passage while we're at it, to better facilitate such elegant affairs? Qing Jinlan covered his face with a nearby pillow, shutting him up. Soon, her breathing grew steady and drawn out as she fell asleep. Xiao Qingzi leaned down to kiss her hair. Soft fingers brushed across his forehead. Half asleep, she groggily asked, "Does it still hurt?" Referring to his stomach. Xiao Qingzi's heart melted into mush, but the mischievous part of him couldn't resist. He slowly guided her hand down, nibbling her ear. "It hurts a lot, want to help me?" Looks like he wasn't hurting anymore. Qing Jinlan wanted to kick him again, but her foot rose and fell back onto the bed weakly, not making contact. She just mumbled a soft refusal. "No, I want to sleep." Xiao Qingzi pressed his forehead against hers, their fingers interlaced. "All right, I won't tease you. Go to sleep." Summer nights were short. It was barely 5 a.m. but the sky had already brightened. Qing Jinlan lifted her eyelids to see the empty bedside, finally relaxing. She went back to sleep, and when she awoke again, the sun was already slanted halfway across the sky. Qing Liqui was lying on one side of the bed, drawing something with a pen. Seeing her mother awake, she shifted over. "Mom, you're up." Qing Jinlan pulled her into an embrace. "Sorry, Mommy woke up late." "Are you hungry?" Qing Liqui shook her head. "I'm not hungry yet." "It's not late, weekends are for sleeping in. If you're still tired you can sleep some more." Qing Jinlan kissed her chubby cheeks. "Mommy slept enough, what are you drawing?" Qing Liqui excitedly held up her sketchpad to show her mom. "I'm making a pickup sign so when Daddy comes out he can see us right away." Qing Jinlan. The little princess still didn't know her father had already returned last night, wholly focused on going to the airport. Qing Liqui hugged her mom's arm. "Mom, I already decided which dress I'm wearing. I'm going to wear the pink rose dress. You have one the same color too. Let's wear matching mother-daughter outfits, okay?" Qing Jinlan stroked her daughter's bedhead hair. Seeing how expectant she was, she didn't know how to break it to her. Maybe she should let him explain to their daughter. It was his fault for coming back early after all. The little princess had prepared so much, she would surely be disappointed. Qing Jinlan's phone on the bedside table vibrated and she breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the caller ID display. The timing of this call really couldn't be better. Xiao Qingzi looked at the screen as the call connected. This was the first time in a long while that his call had been picked up so quickly. He wondered if she was still half asleep. "Did I wake you?" he asked gently. Leaning against the headboard, Qing Jinlan said, "No, go ahead and explain to Liqui about picking you up from the airport." She was about to hand the phone to Qing Liqui. "Wait a moment," Xiao Qingzi stopped her. "What is it?" Xiao Qingzi replied, "I'm in Beilin now. I came to inspect a factory here, and I'll be heading back this afternoon. I sent you the flight details on WeChat." Qing Jinlan fell silent. Xiao Qingzi cleared his throat to cover his unease. "Meow meow, come pick me up." Qing Jinlan couldn't help scoffing. "You really are childish." "It's a scheduled trip, I'm just a week early." Xiao Qingzi rubbed his brow with his fingertips. He admitted he was being childish, but he also came up with a legitimate-sounding reason. "I couldn't disappoint Liqui, could I?" Qing Liqui vaguely heard her dad's voice from the phone. She went over to her mom and loudly asked, "Dad, have you gotten on the plane?" Qing Jinlan turned on the speakerphone and handed the phone to Qing Liqui to let father and daughter speak directly. She got out of bed, quickly washed up, and had intended to cook something to eat. But the dining table was already set with breakfast, boiled eggs, sandwiches, and there was congee simmering in the sand pot on the stove. It was simple yet still meticulously prepared. He had gotten up early to cook and then rushed to catch his flight. It must have been quite tiring. After finishing her call with Dad, Qing Liqui ran out and saw the food on the table. "Wow," she exclaimed, "Mom, you're so amazing to have breakfast ready so quickly." Qing Jinlan let her daughter assume she was the one who made breakfast. In Liqui's eyes, after all, her mom could do anything. "Mom, I didn't tell Dad we were coming to pick him up. We're going to surprise him." Qing Liqui excitedly shared her surprise plan with her mom after swallowing half a boiled egg. If it wasn't the weekend today, Qing Jinlong really would have been too lazy to play along with his little act. The airport was crowded with people, some rushing anxiously, some parting reluctantly with loved ones, some reuniting joyfully with family. When Qing Liqui saw people emerging from the gates, her eyes lit up. Clutching the flowers in her hand, she ran over shouting "Dad!" Xiao Qingzi strode over quickly and took the flowers from her hand. Bending down, he scooped up his little girl. "How did Liqui get here?" Qing Liqui giggled. "We came to pick you up, Dad. Were you surprised to see me and Mom?" The corners of Xiao Qingzi's mouth turned up. Very surprised. Dad would never have expected Liqui and Mom to come to the airport. Qing Liqui was even more delighted now. Her surprise had been a success. Qing Jinlong wore sunglasses and folded up the pickup sign she had brought, stuffing it into her bag. She stood far away with her arms crossed over her chest. Mother and daughter wore matching pink dresses. Their exquisite features and loosely tied braids gave them a casual yet natural beauty, the daughter sweet and cute, the mother aloof and elegant. They had already attracted many gazes. And then the tall, handsome man with an air of elegance walked over to them. Passers-by sighed to themselves that this family of three looked as if they had stepped out of a painting, far too good-looking. Carrying Qing Liqui, Xiao Qingzi walked over and reached out to the expressionless woman, a smile in his dark eyes as he looked at her. In just one night, so many things seemed to have changed. Qing Jinlong's eyes behind her sunglasses blinked. She was more awkward than unnatural. "What do you want?" Qing Liqui covered her mouth, giggling. "Mom, Dad wants to hold your hand." Qing Jinlong turned and started walking forward. "Let's go, it'll be dark soon." Xiao Qingzi strode up and grasped her hand, holding it tightly in his palm. Qing Liqui whispered in her dad's ear, "Dad, Mom is shy." Xiao Qingzi whispered back to his daughter, "Don't say it out loud, or Mom will be even more shy." Qing Liqui nodded that this would be a secret between her and Dad. Qing Jinlong pretended not to hear the father-daughter conversation. The sunglasses may have hidden her eyes, but they couldn't conceal how her earlobes had flushed red, which looked especially charming against her pink dress. From a distance, LV Siwei followed behind her son, confirming that she had not seen wrongly or misheard. The little girl her son was carrying had clearly just called him Dad. The Dragon Boat Festival was coming up soon. LV Siwei had originally planned to come bring her son some zongzi and see if he was eating and resting properly, instead of just obsessing over that rubbish company of his. But as soon as she got off the plane, she saw the scene unfold. She felt both thrilled and angry, her heart was racing so fast it felt like it would burst out of her chest, and her hands were shaking uncontrollably. She was thrilled that she actually had such a well-behaved little granddaughter. But she was angry that her granddaughter was already so big, yet she hadn't even gotten a clear look at what the girl looked like. She shouldn't have let him return to the Xiao family back then. Never mind anything else, he had clearly picked up all the rotten habits of those young masters, his daughter was already so big, yet he still had no commitment to the girl's mother. He had told her before that there was someone he liked, and she had been so happy to hear it. Who would have thought he planned to fool around and then abandon the girl in the end? Or was he trying to play the field and keep both women? She figured he was trying to anger his late father enough for his ghost to rise from the grave in the middle of the night to settle accounts with him. LV Siwei didn't dare call out to her son, mainly because she was afraid of suddenly appearing and startling the young woman and that sweet, well-behaved little girl. She left the airport, hailed a cab, and hurried to the supermarket. She bought 3 feather dusters and 2 laundry paddles before returning to the Songlin apartments. Her son had many properties, so he definitely wouldn't keep the woman at this apartment complex, knowing his mother might stop by occasionally. She planned to wait until dinner was just about finished, then call her son over. Today she had to, on behalf of his late father and all their ancestors, properly discipline this unfilial descendant. Sitting on the sofa and catching her breath, LV Siwei thought again of the scene she had glimpsed at the airport. Although it had only been a brief, distant look, that young woman was truly beautiful, with an even better temperament. And the little girl was also cute, looking so well-behaved. On second thought, it seemed her son deserved even more of a beating. She regretted not buying more feather dusters, even 10 would not be enough to properly hit him. The car drove steadily along the highway. From the back seat, Qing Liqui happily unwrapped the gifts her dad had brought back one by one. Qing Jinlong asked the person in the back, "Where are you headed?" Xiao Qingzi's gaze met hers in the rearview mirror. Qing Jinlan looked away first. The smile lurking in Xiao Qing's eyes had not disappeared since he got off the plane. He replied, Qing Garden. Qing Liqui hadn't heard her parents' conversation. She saw the bracelet in the box, eyes wide open. Dad, it's so pretty. This one is for Mom, and this one for me, right? That's right, Xiao Qingzi took out a bracelet from the box. Should I put it on for you, Liqui? Qing Liqui nodded eagerly. After putting on the bracelet, she kept turning her wrist this way and that, peeking at it and admiring it. Her little feet occasionally gave a couple kicks. Dad really knew how to pick gifts, it was just too beautiful. Dad, put one on for Mom too, Qing Liqui urged her father. Qing Jinlan replied to her daughter, Mom is driving right now, so I can't wear it yet. Xiao Qingzi picked up the other bracelet and said to both daughter and mother, I'll put it on for Mom at the next red light. And so the bracelet did end up on Qing Jinlan's wrist after all. Xiao Qingzi had figured out the trick to gift giving. Qing Liqui was overjoyed. She loved matching clothes and accessories with her mother. Dad, are you coming home with me and Mom? Qing Liqui saw the car pulling into Qing Garden. She assumed her mom was going to drop Dad off at his own home, since she had never been to Dad's house before. Xiao Qingzi glanced at the driver before pointing to the house outside. Dad lives here now, he told his daughter. Qing Liqui was puzzled for a moment. So the new neighbor who had just moved in next door was Dad? She looked at her dad, then at the neighboring house, and thought about her dad's current secret identity situation. After a long pause, she finally spoke up, Dad, did you move here because it makes it convenient to sneak over at night when you miss me and Mom? Qing Liqui saw that her dad and Mom were not saying anything, thinking she had guessed right. She shook her finger at her dad. Dad, you can't climb over the wall, it's dangerous, you might hurt your leg, she whispered into her dad's ear. Dad, you can use a ladder, with a ladder you don't have to worry about hurting your leg. Xiao Qingzi laughed out loud, amused by his precious daughter's uncanny words. He ruffled her fluffy bangs. Dad knows, we happen to have a ladder at home. When Dad wants to see little Liqui, I'll just climb over with the ladder. Qing Liqui happily nodded. It would be so fun to have Dad come over on a ladder to see her. Xiao Qingzi didn't actually need to climb over walls now, but it was barely any better than that, coming and going in the dark of night, not allowed to be seen by anyone. He was still a man that couldn't stand the light of day. But things had to be taken one step at a time. At least now he had some status with her, legitimate reasons. If she accepted his ring, it would be even more legitimate. Too bad, the ring was returned. This box had been sitting in Qing Jinlan's bag the whole time. Last night was too chaotic, she forgot to give it to him. When the father and daughter were talking about climbing over walls versus using ladders, she remembered. Seeing the small box pushed over to him, Xiao Qingzi knew what was inside. It was the expected result. Rejected this time, next time he'd look for an opportunity to propose again. For a proposal, his psychological expectation was to try at least 10 times, with no upper limit. Seeing the small box, Qing Liqui thought it was a gift Mom gave Dad. She scratched her forehead, feeling a little awkward. Dad, I didn't prepare a gift for you. She had only received so many gifts from Dad, with nothing prepared to give back. Xiao Qingzi squeezed her little hand. Little Liqui coming to the airport with Mom to pick up Dad is already the best gift. You even gave Dad flowers. It was Dad's first time receiving flowers from someone else. The corners of Qing Liqui's mouth curled up high. Oh right, she gave Dad beautiful flowers. I picked the flowers, Mom paid. It was from me and Mom together to Dad. The corners of Xiao Qingzi's mouth bent into the same arc as hers. Dad really liked them. They didn't eat dinner together. Xiao Qingzi said he had a dinner appointment that night, would put down his luggage and immediately head out. This line finally got a proper look from Qing Jinlan. He was sensible enough to know to make an excuse on his own, without needing her to say anything. Although Xiao Qingzi really wanted to have a family dinner with the three of them, sometimes you had to advance inch by inch, sometimes you also needed to quit while you were ahead. Her agreeing to come to the airport to pick him up was already an unexpected joy. If he insisted on having dinner together now, it would likely cause her to resent it. After Xiao Qingzi returned home, just as he finished showering, he got a call from his mom telling him to go to Songlin Apartments as soon as he finished his business. She would be waiting for him there. From his mom's tone, Xiao Qingzi thought something had happened with Shen Shiwen. As soon as he entered the door without even changing his shoes, a face full of feathers greeted him. With one hand blocking the feather duster and the other supporting his mom, he didn't know where her anger came from. Unlike other mothers who would hit their kids, you specifically aim for the face. What offense has my face caused you? LV Siwei spat at him. You still have the cheek, your dad's face, and our LV family's reputation have nearly been ruined by you. What's happened? This was the first time Xiao Qingzhe saw his mom so furious. LV Siwei pointed at his nose with the feather duster. Don't you have a daughter? Xiao Qingzhe was stunned. Who told you? LV Siwei whacked him hard on the back with the feather duster. Just answer yes or no. No need for all that extra chatter. If he dared to keep hiding it from her, she would beat him into a pig head today. Xiao Qingzhe answered firmly, yes. She's 6 this year, named Qing Liqui, beautiful and cute, extremely well-behaved. After hearing this, LV Siwei hit him fiercely, hands shaking. She's already 6, the girl gave you a daughter, already 6, and you still haven't offered the girl a commitment till now. Xiao Qingzhe, how did your dad teach you? Do you even know how to write the word responsibility? When that well-behaved little girl calls you dad, you happily agree. Don't you feel ashamed? Xiao Qingzhe sighed, letting the feather duster fall on him. Because I made mistakes back then, causing our separation. I found out about my daughter's existence only a few months earlier than you. I'm now working hard to take responsibility, but I was absent for 7 years. For the child and for her, it's not easy for them to accept me again, so you probably can't meet your granddaughter for now. The feather duster stopped as LV Siwei looked at him. Then what's the story with you telling me before you had a girl you liked? It's her. He felt a little awkward, not used to talking about his feelings in front of elders, but his expression was also solemn. All these years, I never got over her. LV Siwei wanted to hit him again. Never got over her, yet you made mistakes. Never got over her, so many years yet you never went back to find her. Making mistakes means you should apologize, explain, kneel. Which have you done? She was unlucky to be liked by you, keeping everything bottled up. You like her yet you refuse to make it clear. What kind of liking is that? Who would know you like her? Even your introverted dad still remembered to tell me I like you 3 times a day when pursuing me. LV Siwei seemed to recall something as she raised the feather duster again. No wait, what mistake did you make back then? If you did anything indecent, forget taking responsibility. You should get as far away from the mother and daughter as possible. Granddaughter, how could I claim she's my granddaughter? Xiao Qingzhe felt utterly ashamed from his mother's words. She was right. If it wasn't for him bottling everything up back then, perhaps there wouldn't have been so many misunderstandings. They wouldn't have missed out on so many years together. It's complicated, but not what you think. In short, it was my mistake. Only then did LV Siwei breathe a slight sigh of relief, leaning on her knees as she sat on the foyer chair. You're not lying to me? No. He sat next to the old woman, patting her back to help her calm down. How did you find out? LV Siwei glared at him, still annoyed. How I found out, I saw when I got off the plane. I was debating whether or not to come over. Fortunately I did. Her tone softened. You said your daughter is called Qing Liqui. What characters? Qing as in future, Li as in clever, Qi with the water radical. Good name. I saw her from afar, could tell she was a clever little girl, voice crisp and lively like a little milk bun, fair and tender as a steamed bun, so beautiful. Her mom is beautiful too, one look and you know she's a good girl. Xiao Qingzhe, listen, you need to admit your mistake with the right attitude, and pursue her with the attitude of pursuing someone. None of that putting on airs and thinking about face or acting cool, and especially no shady tricks. If she can accept you then good, count yourself lucky. If she doesn't accept you, then you can't continue disturbing the mother and daughter's peaceful life, and materially you have to compensate them as much as you possibly can, otherwise I'll have your dad come out and teach you a lesson. All right, if you can get my dad to come out, he probably won't have time to teach me a lesson, only thinking about getting intimate with you. You little brat, still have the heart to tease me. LV Siwei gave him another whack with the feather duster. She felt her son was different than before. His eyes were lively now, even making cheeky jokes. She cleared her throat, unable to resist asking, seeing you like this, the situation now isn't a dead end? Xiao Qingzhe picked off the feather stuck to his clothes. Not exactly, I'm trying to turn the dead end into an open end. Not trying, you must turn the dead end into an open end. If it didn't become an active situation, according to Qingzhe's temperament, he would probably end up alone for the rest of his life. The key was that he didn't care about being single, but she still wanted to see that well-behaved and clever little girl, as well as that girl as beautiful as a fairy that she didn't even get a clear look at in the airport. Xiao Qingzhe said, she is the young lady from the Qing family. LV Siwei was startled. The Qing family? That Qing family? Her father didn't say anything else, just that he would not let his daughter enter the Xiao family, so I thought, can I marry into her family instead? LV Siwei slapped his shoulder. Marry in, your dad just said to get back what your grandmother deserved from the Xiao family, he didn't say to sell your life for them. If you ask me, just take back everything you deserve, then take that as a dowry and marry into the Qing family. That way you might still have a glimmer of hope. The old lady looked at him disdainfully. The girl's father is reasonable enough. How could he not beat you half to death? Xiao Qingzhe smiled and asked the old lady, do you want to see the photos? LV Siwei was excited. You have them? Xiao Qingzhe took out his phone. They were screenshots he took of the TV when watching Liqui's Children's Day performance. There were a few of her holding Liqui. Her name is Qing Jinlan. LV Siwei held the phone with both hands, swiping through one by one. When she got to the last one, she took a deep breath. Xiao Qingzhe, hurry up now, do you hear me? Hurry up and take action. A girl this good, if you don't make a move there will be countless people chasing her. Use every skill you've got, don't hold anything back. She thought for a moment, seems you don't actually have that many skills. Should I order some how-to guides online about chasing girls? Xiao Qingzhe pressed the old lady's hand, no need for guides, since you're here this time, stay a few more days. If you have time, you can make some candied haw fruit, she likes eating them, Liqui probably would too. He had brought her some before, and she really liked them. LV Siwei was happy, great, I have plenty of time. I'll go to the supermarket tomorrow to buy ingredients, I can have them made by noon. The old lady stood up as she spoke, and went to the study to find a pen and paper to write down what she needed to buy tomorrow. Xiao Qingzhe sent Jinlan a message, want to eat candied haw fruit? After a short while, Jinlan replied, are you making them? Xiao Qingzhe's eyebrows quirked up, I can try making them, but can't guarantee the taste. Then I won't eat them, you can keep them for yourself. Xiao Qingzhe's smiling eyes spilled over, I'll come pick you up after work tomorrow? I have a cocktail party tomorrow night, don't know when it will end. Where? Right before going to sleep, Jinlan replied, no need for you to pick me up, I have a driver. Xiao Qingzhe laughed to himself, this was her passive-aggressive way of scolding him, saying she has a driver so doesn't need him to specially come pick her up from the airport that one time. His phone vibrated again, it was a message from Yuan Zhongzhou, sending a few photos of who Jing Yao had been meeting with recently. Xiao Qingzhe's gaze turned cold, this aunt-in-law of his was not so simple. She knew he had a daughter now, and that it involved the Qing family, yet she had been holding herself back without making any moves. That in itself was abnormal. He had been having people keep an eye on her and Xiao Zhongting, seeing her recent string of actions, it seemed she wanted to drain the pond to catch the fish. Since she wanted to play this game, he was very willing to entertain her. The cocktail party was not an excuse from Jinlan, it was real. Originally her brother Jin Chuan was supposed to attend, but he went on a business trip to Lin City, so the job fell onto her. It was simple enough, she only needed to make an appearance representing the Qing family. She didn't expect to run into someone unexpected at the party, He Zhijian. They had been on a blind date once before. He Zhijian was also surprised to see her, walked over with a wine glass raised and took the initiative to chat, Miss Qing, long time no see, I thought your brother would be coming today. Jinlan was poised and casual, my brother is away on business, so I'm here in his place. He Zhijian expressed understanding, right, the restaurant you mentioned, I went. The taste is great, I really liked it. When they went out for a meal, most of the time was spent talking about food. He Zhijian wanted authentic Cantonese cuisine, so Jinlan recommended a place. Their conversation was just small talk, she didn't expect he would actually go eat there. Jinlan replied, that's good that you liked it. Does Miss Qing have any other recommendations? I feel like Miss Qing's taste is very similar to mine, anything Miss Qing likes, I would probably like too. Jinlan's eyes shifted slightly. He Zhijian was acting very odd. They had only shared one meal together, with no contact after that, barely more than strangers. But looking at where He Zhijian's gaze landed, Jinlan seemed to understand something. A short-haired woman in a black fishtail dress, probably the one who made him waver that he mentioned. Jinlan asked, Mr. He, are you trying to use me as a tool? Not that she was unwilling to be a tool, but she couldn't do it unknowingly. He Zhijian was startled, seeing where her gaze went, his expression a little embarrassed at his rudeness, sorry, of all the ladies here besides her, I only know you. Jinlan clinked glasses with him, indicating it was fine, if you like Cantonese food, Jin Yu in the east side is pretty good too. He Zhijian laughed openly, Miss Qing really is different from the rumors. Jinlan also smiled, rumors are mostly false rather than true. Her smiling face froze when she saw the person raising a glass to her from the corner of the room. Then her phone lit up, Jinlan apologized to He Zhijian and went to a quiet corner to answer the call. Chatting about something happy? The tone was undisguised sourness. From some point on, she had never smiled at him again. Jinlan asked, how did you get here? Qing family events basically would not invite the Xiaos, and vice versa, so it was rare they would run into each other at these kinds of occasions. Here to drink free wine, and to steal a driver's job, to take my girlfriend home. He emphasized girlfriend. Oh, then please drink up, Mr. Xiao. Unless you're afraid your stomach will get upset and run a fever again. Jinlan did not take his bait about girlfriend, and was about to hang up after speaking. Xiao Qingzai chuckled lowly, I'm not drinking alcohol, just water. How can I drink if I'm going to drive? When are you leaving? Jinlan replied, whenever I feel like leaving. Leaving in my car? My driver is already waiting for me outside. Then I'll leave in your car? Jinlan refused, my car doesn't have your seat. The two were in the same venue, standing in different corners, talking on the phone about this meaningless conversation. It was very strange enough that Jinlan kind of wanted to leave this boring party and continue this pointless chat. So, in the next second, she hung up the call. She couldn't indulge that thought any further. When the party reached intermission, Jinlan bid the host farewell. Seeing her about to leave, he Zijian chatted with her a couple more meaningless pleasantries before she left. She didn't look back at the person behind her. Right as the elevator doors were slowly closing, someone stretched out a hand to stop the doors, and they opened again. The owner of the black leather shoes walked in and came to stand beside her, grasping her hand. Not even waiting for me. Jinlan's hand twitched slightly, but Xiao Qingzai didn't use force, only saying, just until the first floor. Slender snow-white fingers rested between long articulate ones. Black suit and white silk dress were reflected on the smooth elevator walls. Others boarding the elevator after them would inevitably steal a glance at the man and woman in the corner. Between them there was no communication, yet it seemed something was flowing between them. Even when seated in the car, the warmth in her hands still hadn't dispersed. Jinlan rubbed at the empty palm, gazing out at the city lights outside the window. Driver Xiao Lu took another look in the rearview mirror and finally confirmed that the car following behind them was the same one as last time, which had been parked next to Mrs. Hone last time. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. When Jinlan got home, Liqui was already asleep. With no child around, she drank half a glass more red wine with the lingering cocktail party buzz before going to shower. After the bath she still went out on the balcony to air dry her hair. The balcony light had been on for less than half a minute when Qing Jinlan's phone received a WeChat message. Want some candied hawthorn? Qing Jinlan didn't reply to him. If she did, he would only try to trick her into opening the door again, and nothing good ever came of that. Leaning back in a deck chair, she gazed at the stars in the sky, losing herself in thought. Some distance away, she could hear the faint twittering of birds, which puzzled her. Where were they coming from? Just then, she noticed a figure appear atop the neighboring wall. He sat lazily on a ladder, surrounded by crepe myrtle blossoms. The moon seemed to hang right above his head. Give him a jug of wine, and he would look just like one of those carefree knights errant of old, gazing at the moon and drinking wine on a rooftop. Qing Jinlan ambled slowly to the base of the wall and craned her neck to look up at him, the hint of a smile playing about her lips. What exactly are you doing up there? Playing the honorable man on the beam? I could call for help and have you arrested as a thief. Xiao Qingzi peered down at her intently. You didn't reply to my message, so I had to come over the wall to bid you good night. Mr. Xiao is too kind to bother bidding me good night. From the moon-shaped gate across the yard, Qing Shanha's deep, ominous gaze fixed Xiao Qingzi in place atop the ladder, his hands clasped behind his back. Xiao Qingzi gathered up the smile in his eyes and his expression became solemn. He straightened his back and lowered his head over the garden wall and moonlight to say, Uncle Cheng. He was completely unruffled at being caught like this, as if he could ignore that he had just stumbled and nearly fallen off the ladder when he first heard the voice. He would seem even more nonchalant if that hadn't happened. Qing Shanha's face was icy cold. I can't accept that uncle from Mr. Xiao. Xiao Qingzai immediately switched to a more formal address. Director Cheng. Qing Jinlan's whole body was rigid and the heat nearly burnt her face off. If there was a hole at her feet, she would bury herself in it right now. She pretended to stay calm and called out, Dad. Son, go to bed, Qing Shanha ordered Qing Jinlan. His daughter had always been a little cold and only called him so tenderly in rare moments of acting spoiled. Qing Jinlan glanced at Xiao Qingzai, then left without looking back. If she stayed any longer, her dad would just get angrier, and the situation would be harder to resolve. Seeing his daughter leave, Qing Shanhe's expression softened a little. He said to Xiao Qingzhe, "Mr. Xiao, since you can't sleep, come join the sleepless old man for some tea." Xiao Qingzhe replied, "All right, Director Cheng, I'll come over right away." Qing Shanhe said coldly, "No front door for you, Mr. Xiao. Since you could climb the wall, I'm sure you can also jump down from it." Xiao Qingzhe stood on the ladder, realizing that his future father-in-law had given him a difficult problem. He couldn't jump down from this wall, but he also couldn't not jump down. If he didn't jump down, there was no way he could enter the Chang's home tonight. If he couldn't get in tonight, he probably would never get in again. Jumping down wasn't a problem for him in terms of the height, but the old man was looking at him right now like he wanted to hack him into 1,000 pieces. If he really dared to jump down, the old man would probably want to boil him in hot oil. Of course, before that, he'd have to break Xiao's legs first. After weighing the options, Xiao Qingzhe still jumped down from the wall with a muffled groan, as if he had sprained his ankle when he landed. Hearing the groan, Qing Jinlan's shoulders tensed, but she still didn't look back and went straight into the house. Qing Shanhe gave a cold humph, no longer looking at that annoying playboy smile. He turned and walked deeper into the yard, taking out his phone to call Lao Chu. "Tomorrow, have someone raise the height of the wall on the left side of Air's house and embed glass on top of it. Also add iron wiring. Don't let even a fly come over from next door." Hearing these clear jabs at himself, Xiao Qingzhe sighed. It seemed his attempt to win them over hadn't worked on anyone in the Qing family. Although Qing Jinlan had returned to the house, she was standing by the window watching the situation outside. Xiao Qingzhe limped over and smiled at her through the window, signaling her to stop worrying and go back to sleep. Qing Jinlan didn't know if his injured foot was real or fake, since she had seen him jump down from even higher walls. Qing Shanhe let out another cold humph. He was no longer interested in looking at that annoying playboy smile, so he turned and walked deeper into the yard. Soon after, Qing Jinlan's phone received 2 messages from her mother. The first said, "The young man looks decent, just not very nimble with his feet and legs." The second said, "I said it was odd, that time at your place, seeing your new employee wearing sunglasses indoors. So it turns out it was him. Little Laqui's eyes are just like his." Qing Jinlan felt she might as well dig a hole now and bury herself. She was already a mother, yet she still had to experience the awkward embarrassment of a teen romance being uncovered by her parents. It was so awkward she just wanted to die. Xiao Qingzhe was led by Qing Shanhe into the study. Qing Shanhe sat at the desk, silently reading documents. Xiao Qingzhe stood right in the middle of the study. Whenever he wanted to speak, Qing Shanhe would turn a page of the document, blocking his words. Xiao Qingzhe understood. This was leaving him hanging. Time passed second by second, while Xiao Qingzhe stood frozen without moving an inch, though sweat did form on his palms from the pain. He really had twisted his ankle. He had to injure himself jumping down. If he could land safely and unharmed after jumping from the wall, wouldn't that just blatantly announce that he snuck over the wall night after night? Although this was the first time he had climbed a ladder and the wall, and he really had no intention of trespassing over it, he just wanted to say goodnight. They probably wouldn't believe his explanation. It would just add to his crimes, pinning him with shameless behavior. After an hour, Qing Shanhe put down the documents in his hands. He slowly drank a sip of water from the cup next to him, glancing at Xiao Qingzhe with slight astonishment. "Why doesn't Mr. Xiao sit?" Before Xiao Qingzhe could answer, Qing Shanhe put down the cup and said in realization, "I see, Mr. Xiao doesn't like sitting on chairs. He only likes sitting on ladders. Or should I bring over a ladder for Mr. Xiao to sit on?" The biting sarcasm made Xiao Qingzhe understand for the first time what it meant to be utterly ashamed. He steeled himself and answered, "Uncle." Qing Shanhe's gaze sharpened. Xiao Qingzhe corrected himself. "Director Cheng," he paused, then continued, "I was rash and reckless tonight. I'm anxious to redeem myself to Jinlan, so I acted without thinking and used the wrong methods." Qing Shanhe asked, "How long have you been living next door, Mr. Xiao?" "Almost half a month." Qing Shanhe's thick brows furrowed deeply. "I remember telling you before, Mr. Xiao, not to disturb my daughter. Do you have a bad memory, or are my words unimportant to you?" Xiao Qingzhe replied, "You said you wouldn't let your daughter through my door. So if I leave the Xiao family, can I ask for a chance at the Chang's door?" Qing Shanhe's brows shifted imperceptibly. When Xiao Qingzhe had invited Qing Jinlan to dinner, he wanted to use her to convey his intentions to Qing Shanhe. But Qing Jinlan didn't fall for it. Not only did she not pass on Xiao Qingze's words of determination to her father, she didn't even let her parents know that Xiao Qingze had moved in next door. She knew that the later her father found out about this, the greater his anger would be. The more trouble Xiao Qingze had to go through after the truth came out, the happier she would be. She was perfectly willing to watch Xiao Qingze suffer. The more cruel and miserable it was, the better. Why would she be his free go-between? Qing Shanhe leaned back in his chair, looking into Xiao Qingze's eyes. According to my knowledge, barring accidents, the entire Xiao Corporation will be yours in the future. Xiao Qingze said, I'm not interested in the Xiao Corporation. I'll only take what I'm due. I don't think my grandmother would have wanted to see her assets carry the Xiao name either. Qing Shanhe's eyes flickered. Do you know how your grandmother died? Xiao Qingze nodded. I know. Who told you? Let alone the outside world, even within the Qing and Xiao families, very few people knew about this. Xiao Yunjing wouldn't have had the chance to hide it yet, much less let his son and grandson know the truth. Xiao Qingze replied, I investigated it myself. Qing Shanhe tapped his fingers on the desk twice. Since you already know the truth, you should understand even more clearly that no matter who is entering whose door, I will not agree to this. I fundamentally don't trust your Xiao family. Mr. Xiao, your house must have many more. Whether you sell this one or leave it empty, in short, I don't want to see you next door anymore. Xiao Qingze stepped forward. I know I have no credibility with Director Qing, but if I can prove my sincerity to Jinlan, in the past and present, could I ask Director Qing to give me a chance? Qing Shanhe smiled sardonically. How will you prove it? The Xiao family has no such thing as sincerity. Xiao Qingze replied, Director Qing can watch and see. Qing Shanhe stared at his eyes in silence for a long time before speaking heavily, when the day comes that you feel you've succeeded, come back to ask me for that chance. It won't be too late. Xiao Qingze secretly relaxed. All right. I won't make Director Qing wait too long. By the time Xiao Qingze walked out of the Qing's home, it was late into the night. Fei Zuhui glared at Qing Shanhe. Look at you. The young couple was having a romantic time under the moon. Their budding romance was going so well, yet you just had to stick your nose in tonight. Qing Shanhe frowned. If I didn't show up, that brat would have no restraint at all. He dared to climb the ladder today. Tomorrow he dared to hop the wall, really thinking this was his own home, coming and going as he pleased. Thankfully he was tactful enough to know to sprain his own leg. Otherwise I'd have to find a stick to break his legs myself. Fei Zuhui took his arm to soothe his anger. What do you think of him? Qing Shanhe pursed his lips silently for a long time before speaking. More like his grandmother. Fei Zuhui laughed. It seems to me it's not just looking a bit alike, but very much alike, in appearance and temperament. I rather feel this is destined by fate. Qing Shanhe's frown grew tighter. What destined by fate? I see it's just this brat relying on a handsome face and slick mouth, strutting around everywhere deceiving people. You didn't see his profligate behavior on the ladder with that young master, using my daughter to say good night when he's free. Of course, saying good night every day is very romantic. I also want someone to say good night to me, unfortunately no one does. Alas, I've lived over half my life in vain. Fei Zuhui lamented with a sigh, and went upstairs. Qing Shanhe didn't expect the ending of tonight's drama to hit him in the foot again. He followed his wife upstairs and said in a low voice, if you want to hear it, I can say it to you every day from now on. Not just good night, but good morning and good afternoon too, however you like. However you like, not one bit. Only when reminded did he know, can saying it voluntarily be the same as taking initiative? Inside was whispered sweet nothings, outside was the night insects chorus. Suddenly a creak sounded. Xiao Qingze stopped in his tracks, and looked over. A figure walked out of the half-open small door. Xiao Qingze's eyes curved down, slowly walking over to her, waiting for me all this time? Qing Jinlan leaned against the door, lightly replying, I wanted to see if you got beaten to death. Xiao Qingze smiled, won't go as far as getting beaten up, your dad is civilized, I just sprained half my leg jumping over the wall. Qing Jinlan said, serves you right, who told you to stay up late at night instead of sleeping, insisting on climbing ladders and scaling walls. Spraining just one leg got you off easy. Xiao Qingze agreed, yes, messed up in strategy, shouldn't have climbed the ladder. Should have dug a tunnel, or at least hide in the tunnel to make a date, then I wouldn't have gotten caught red-handed by father-in-law and scared half to death just now. Qing Jinlong glared daggers at him. Who's your father-in-law? Xiao Qingze half embraced her, bringing her into his arms, and whispered by her ear, you guess. Qing Jinlong jabbed him in the chest with her elbow. Looks to me like you don't want your other leg either. Shoo, Xiao Qingze gently rubbed her earlobe. Just let me hold you for a while. After tonight, wanting to hold you will be difficult. Qing Jinlong poked him again, but didn't move anymore, letting him hold her tight. Her chin rested on his shoulder as she looked at the tree shadows on the roadside, flatly asking, does your leg need the hospital? No need, just a pulled tendon. I'll wrap it when I get back, have to take a little damage when I jump to let your dad vent. Can't be too serious or you'll worry. Qing Jinlong twisted the skin on the back of his hand. He didn't have one proper sentence. Xiao Qingze asked her, you're not worried about me? Qing Jinlong replied, not worried. Not worried waiting here for me all this time? Qing Jinlong didn't want to split hairs with him. My dad, what did he say? Father-in-law said a lot. What does darling Mingming want to hear? Qing Jinlong was annoyed. She kicked out at his shin. Even if he wasn't lame, she had to lame him now. Xiao Qingze pretended to be very hurt, bending at the waist. Done for, leg really lamed by you. I'll depend on you to support me the rest of my life. Qing Jinlong pushed him away, refusing to let him hold her anymore. Xiao Qingze chuckled lowly, no longer teasing her. I think your dad doesn't dislike me that much. I feel I'll still have a chance to drink tea with him in his study again. Qing Jinlong didn't know where his confidence came from. What eye did you use to see him not disliking you so much? Just now he almost tore you limb from limb. Tearing limb from limb is still better than ignoring my existence. He was willing to call me into the study to talk, there's still room to maneuver. Qing Jinlong looked at him suspiciously, why do I feel you're actually happy getting caught red-handed? Xiao Qingze couldn't deny he was indeed happy. For me this isn't a bad thing. Otherwise I'd be forever your secret boyfriend you can't bear to make public. With things brought to light, there are always ways to smooth it over. Qing Jinlong used her arm to force distance between them, expression serious. When did I say you were my boyfriend? Xiao Qingze couldn't resist wanting to kiss her pursed lips. How he loved that mouth of hers, saying the opposite of her heart. He just did as he thought, hooking her waist and moving in close, iron lips and stone tongue, he'd still have a day to kiss her soft. Whose boyfriend am I? In the space between breaths, he asked, pressing against her. Qing Jinlong hurried to suck in fresh air, answering him breathlessly and brokenly, who knows, love whoever. Xiao Qingze leaned down again. After some time, he nibbled her swollen lips, asking again, who is your boyfriend? Qing Jinlong scratched his neck, dog. Xiao Qingze sucked the sweetness in her mouth, asking vaguely, who's the dog? Qing Jinlong answered him clearly and plainly, you. Breathing stopped, his first, then hers. Xiao Qingze pressed his lips against hers, laughing hoarsely, see, you admitted it yourself, the dog is your boyfriend. I'm the dog, so I'm your boyfriend, can't take it back now. Qing Jinlong violently bit down on the corner of his upturned mouth. She didn't admit anything, he took advantage of her oxygen-deprived state to set a trap. Xiao Qingze held her waist tightly against him. Don't bite, or something will happen if you keep biting. She felt the obvious heat against her waist, and Qing Jinlong's mind blanked a moment, then flushed with anger and shame. Xiao Qingze, can you not get aroused so casually? Aroused. Xiao Qingze's face could thicken to rival a city wall only in front of Qing Jinlong. You have to forgive it. 7 years now, only used one night on your birthday. Idle the rest of the time, no wonder it has excess energy. Qing Jinlong decided she might as well just bite him to death. Even in dreams that night, Qing Jinlong kept biting him, biting until she broke out in sweat. She woke up and took a cold shower. Qing Liqui also rubbed her eyes and came out of the bedroom, looking for Mama to hold her when she saw her mother. Qing Jinlong picked her up and used her hand to smooth her messy slept-on hair. Did little Liqui sleep well? Qing Liqui nodded, her fluffy hair swaying along. I slept very, very well. Sounds and voices came from the yard. Qing Liqui pricked up her ears, perking up too. Mama, who came? New chapters will be fully updated at novl/bin.com. Qing Jinlong said, maybe it's your Grandpa Chu over. She heard her dad calling Uncle Chu last night. With Uncle Chu's efficient working style, the wall would probably be up by this morning. Mama, I want to go out and see. Qing Jinlan took her to the door. Uncle Chu was in the yard directing the workers carrying materials. Qing Liqui yelled in her childish voice, Grandpa Chu, morning. Uncle Chu looked back, Little Liqui morning. Second miss, hope we didn't disturb your rest. You didn't disturb us, Liqui and I just happened to wake up. Grandpa Chu, what are you and the worker uncles doing? Uncle Chu told Qing Liqui, your grandpa said to build this wall a little higher. Oh. Qing Liqui looked at Mama. Mama, is it because Papa was caught by Grandpa climbing the wall last night? Qing Jinlan flicked her little nose, not wanting to answer this question. Qing Liqui tilted her head. It's okay, Mama. Even if the wall goes up, Papa can still dig a tunnel from next door. Our side is grass, easy to dig. Qing Shanhe could hear his granddaughter's words from afar, coughing loudly twice. Qing Liqui saw Grandpa, looked around, then yelled loudly to Uncle Chu standing below the wall supervising, Grandpa Chu, you can replace the grass with cement so even if someone wants to dig a tunnel, they can't get through. Hearing his granddaughter's words, Qing Shanhe laughed out loud. On the other side of the wall, Xiao Qingze propped his forehead. Qing Jinlan turned around and went into the house. The wall had been erected, not built very high, just 2 layers of bricks laid symbolically, no glass installed, no barbed wire pulled, and of course, the lawn hadn't been replaced with cement either, but these 2 layers of bricks clearly demonstrated an attitude from Qing Shanhe. If Xiao Qingze dared to climb a ladder and scale the wall again, it would mean he had no respect for Qing Shanhe at all. Would he dare show no respect for Qing Shanhe? Of course he wouldn't dare. Qing was his future father-in-law, unless he didn't plan on marrying into the Qing family anymore. So whether it was scaling the wall, digging a tunnel, or even just walking through the front gate at night, Xiao Qingze absolutely could not do those things again. He obediently returned to the role of a neighbor and temporarily moved back to his apartment in Songlin. That night during a video call with her dad, Qing Liqui heaved a long sigh. Dad, how could you be so careless? When doing bad things, of course you should do it secretly. Look how miserable you are getting caught by Grandpa. Xiao Qingze looked at the delicate little figure on the screen, his eyes shining like water. Yes, Dad should have been more careful. Next time Dad will know to do bad things secretly, no one can find out. Qing Liqui comforted her dad. It's okay Dad, Grandpa is so easy to coax. Every time Grandpa gets angry, I just need to hug his neck and tell him he's the best grandpa in the world and I love him the most, then Grandpa's face turns into a big smile. Don't worry Dad, I'll help coax Grandpa for you. Someone couldn't hold in their laughter. Qing Liqui heard it. Dad, is there someone else there with you? I heard someone laugh. LV Siwei, leaning in the doorway, waved her hand at Xiao Qingze and turned to leave the study. She just wanted to hear the little girl's voice. She couldn't show herself to the young miss before her son was formally accepted by the Qing family, or it would be disrespectful to the young lady and her family. But just hearing the voice from such a close distance made LV Siwei extremely excited. She couldn't sit still and pace circles around the sofa. The young girl was so well behaved, and her voice was so sweet, at least her son was good for producing such an adorable little girl. Xiao Qingze responded to Qing Liqui, it was the sound from the TV in the living room is on. Oh, does Dad want to talk to Mom? Qing Liqui had said everything she wanted to say to her dad, she had to go practice piano now. Yes, Dad wants to talk to Mom. He wanted to talk to her, he just didn't know if she wanted to talk to him. Qing Liqui understood. She crawled off the bed, phone in hand, and ran to the living room to find her mom. Mom, Dad says he misses you and wants to talk to you. I'm going to go practice piano now, won't eavesdrop on your secret talk with Dad. She handed the phone over to her mom in the living room, then dashed off to the piano room. Qing Jinlan glanced at the screen. What do you want? Xiao Qingze replied, like Little Liqui said, Dad misses Mom. Boring. Doesn't Mom miss Dad? No. Looks like it's just me with hopeless one-sided love. Good that you know. Xiao Qingze smiled, can you let me see you for a bit, to cure my lovesickness? On the screen he could only see the ceiling light. Qing Jinlan covered the camera with a piece of paper. Now even the ceiling light was invisible, only pitch black darkness on the screen. Don't disturb me while I'm working. Okay, Xiao Qingze didn't insist, then I'll keep you company while you work. The phone became quiet, only occasionally hearing the tapping of keyboard and rustling of documents. Amidst these soft sounds, Qing Jinlan looked up from the documents, slightly distracted. This scene was just like before, in the past, when they would be on the phone together, her doing homework on the side, him working on the other side. She rarely thought about the past, but had been frequently reminiscing recently. Qing Jinlan set down the documents in her hands and looked toward the paper covering the phone camera. "How is your foot now?" The tapping of the keyboard stopped. Xiao Qingze looked at the pitch-black screen and replied, "Still a little swollen." "Do you want to see?" Qing Jinlan didn't fall for his teasing. "If it's still a little swollen, then go see a doctor." "What can I see from here?" Xiao Qingze wasn't ashamed at being seen through. On the contrary, he became even more shameless. "I feel like it would be more effective if you saw it." Qing Jinlan didn't want to respond to him anymore. "Then just let it stay swollen. It doesn't hurt me anyway. I'm hanging up now, Qing Liqui needs to take a bath." "Okay." Xiao Qingze replied with a smile, waiting for her to hang up. But the expected hang-up never came. After a while, Qing Jinlan spoke up. "This Saturday morning, I'm taking Qing Liqui to get vaccinations. Come along if you're free, if not then don't worry about it." "I'm free on Saturday, any time is good." She hadn't even finished speaking before Xiao Qingze already replied. "Should I come pick you up then?" "No need, we can just meet up at the hospital." "I'm hanging up now." Not waiting for a response from the other end, Qing Jinlan immediately ended the call, then threw the phone onto the sofa and quickly walked away, the further the better. The corners of Xiao Qingze's lips slowly curved up, his dark pupils filling with warmth. LV Siwei looked at her son who had finally emerged and couldn't help teasing him. "You're finally done with the call. I thought it would go on until tomorrow morning." Xiao Qingze lightly coughed to cover up his unnatural expression. LV Siwei rarely saw her son look embarrassed and found it amusing. After enjoying it for a bit, she suddenly remembered something. "That's right, I don't know how, but your step-grandmother found out I was here and called to invite me over for the Dragon Boat Festival. I directly rejected her. Don't know if it was her own idea or the old master's intention, but I was quite blunt and didn't leave her any face at all, must have pissed her off good." The Xiao family didn't recognize her as a daughter-in-law, and she had never planned on stepping foot in that household. Even when Xiao Zhangke was alive, she had never eaten a meal there. Now that Xiao Zhangke had passed, she would go there even less. Who knew what they were scheming? LV Siwei looked at her son. "I didn't make any trouble for you, right? But even if I did, don't worry about it, you can smooth it over yourself." She didn't understand anything about the business world, but Xiao Zhangke's biggest regret on his deathbed was that things that should have belonged to his mother ended up in that woman's hands instead. That was his biggest grievance in life. So she agreed to her son returning to the Xiao family to do what he needed to do, but that didn't mean she would pretend to get along with those people over there or engage in those fake courtesies. Xiao Qingze sat down next to LV Siwei and took her phone, directly adding that number to the blacklist. "You're thinking too much about making trouble or not making trouble. For dealing with those people, just remember this one thing: no need for any courtesy. In the future, as soon as you hear her voice, just directly hang up. No need to listen to her nonsense." LV Siwei held her son's hand and leaned on his shoulder. "I knew I didn't raise my good boy for nothing." Just when they were having this tender moment, LV Siwei thought of something. She straightened up and slapped his arm. "When will you finally be able to enter the Qing family's doors? Just hearing the little girl's voice makes me itch with impatience." Xiao Qingze held his arm out to her again. LV Siwei was puzzled. "What?" "Hit me a few more times." "Why?" "Because it'll probably be a while before I can enter." His original difficult task became even harder after the failed proximity plan that angered the future father-in-law. The Qing family's doors were even farther from his reach now. LV Siwei. She couldn't believe she gave birth to such a useless fool who didn't even know how to pursue a wife. That Saturday, a fine drizzle fell from the sky. In Qing Liqui's heart, however, it was pouring rain. She had been unhappy since waking up that morning because today she had to go to the hospital for vaccinations. Qing Liqui really disliked getting shots. Even when she was sick, she would rather take bitter medicine than get a shot. The nurse aunties always said it wouldn't hurt, but it really did hurt a lot. When they arrived at the hospital, Qing Liqui didn't want to get out of the car, or let her mom get out either. She leaned over to cling onto her mom's hand and act cute. "Mom, do I really have to get it today?" It's raining today, isn't it not good to get shots on a rainy day? Qing Jinlan pointed outside. Look who's here. In the rain, Xiao Qingzhe walked over with a black umbrella and tapped on the car window. When Qing Liqui saw her father, she was instantly delighted. She hadn't seen her father for several days. Dad! You look so handsome holding the umbrella. It's like a dark night descending from the sky. Xiao Qingzhe rested his elbow on the car window and said, Does the little princess want the dark night to carry her out of the car? Qing Liqui stretched out her arms and shouted loudly, Yes. Xiao Qingzhe opened the car door, undid her seatbelt, and picked her up with one arm. Qing Jinlan also got out of the car and went to take the umbrella from him. Xiao Qingzhe didn't hand it to her but shifted the handle towards himself and tilted the canopy towards her. No need. Just come a little closer. Qing Jinlan looked down at his feet. Sensing her gaze, Xiao Qingzhe's eyes smiled deeper and he took 2 steps to show her. Qing Jinlan gave him an annoyed look. Qing Liqui didn't notice the silent exchange between her parents. She hugged her father's neck and said to her mother, Mom, you have to stay close to Dad, or you'll get wet. Getting wet makes you sick. If you get really sick, you have to get a shot. The more she spoke, the softer her voice became. She had temporarily forgotten about the shot, but now she remembered again. Dad, are you afraid of getting shots? Dad is afraid of shots too. Qing Liqui's eyes widened as she looked at her father. Shinchuki had told her boys aren't afraid of pain. Is Dad afraid of pain too? Xiao Qingzhe's eyes told her, Dad is very afraid of pain. Qing Liqui patted her dad's shoulder comfortingly, It's okay, Dad. Next time you get a shot, Mom and I will be with you, so you won't be scared. Xiao Qingzhe bumped his chin against her hair and said, Thank you, little Liqui. Then he added, This time, Mom and Dad will both be with little Liqui, so little Liqui won't be scared either. Qing Liqui thought about it and nodded. She wasn't scared at all anymore. The 3 huddled under one umbrella as the raindrops pattered down. Sheltered beneath, soft whispers were exchanged. A gust of wind blew by and Xiao Qingzhe shielded both his daughter and the woman beside him in his embrace. Nestled between her parents, Qing Liqui giggled gleefully, Dad's back is so broad, it blocked all the rain in an instant. Mom, isn't Dad amazing? Qing Jinlan helped straighten her daughter's windblown skirt and wiped the raindrops off her white shirt. She answered dismissively, Very amazing. Let's get going, the rain is getting heavier. Xiao Qingzhe's eyes flickered as her fingers brushed his thin shirt, leaving a trail of warmth on his skin. Qing Liqui said she wasn't afraid anymore, but that didn't mean it wouldn't hurt. She leaned against her father and held her mother's arm as the nurse gently assured her it'll be over soon. She held back her tears, but once they left the hospital, pearls began streaming down her cheeks. She didn't make a sound, just silently wiped her tears with her hand. The rainbow after the rain stopped couldn't distract her. This was the first time Xiao Qingzhe had seen his daughter cry in a long time. Unsure of how to comfort her, he could only catch her falling tears in his large hand and turn to the girl's mother for help. Qing Jinlan spoke gently, Little Liqui was very brave today. As a reward, little Liqui can tell Mom what she wants for lunch. But no ice cream today since you just had a shot. You can have it tomorrow. Qing Liqui's tears hung from her lashes. Hearing her mother's words, more threatened to fall. Do you want pizza? Qing Liqui asked with red-rimmed eyes, Can I have fruit pizza? Of course. Qing Liqui's sobs gradually subsided but she still choked out, Mom, if I cry one more minute, can I still have the fruit pizza? Qing Jinlan stroked her cheek and said, Of course you can. Little Liqui can cry 5 more minutes but no more after that or your eyes will be swollen tomorrow. Qing Liqui nodded with a hiccup, Okay, I'll just cry 3 more minutes. I don't want swollen eyes because they won't be pretty. Listening to the soft exchange between mother and daughter, Xiao Qingzhe's heart ached and softened. He took the hand of the woman beside him and stroked Qing Liqui's hair. If little Liqui wants fruit pizza, Dad can make it. Hearing her father's words, even Qing Liqui's hiccups stopped. Really, Dad? Yes, does little Liqui want it? Qing Liqui's red-rimmed eyes were full of anticipation. I want it. But a question occurred to her. Where will you make it, Dad? Her grandfather was still angry at her father for sneaking over the wall. She definitely couldn't bring him home. Xiao Qingzhe tentatively asked the woman beside him, Shall we go to Songlin Apartments? That's where I'm staying now. He added, Just me alone, no one else. His mother had already gone back yesterday. Qing Jinlan gave him a look. The rain that had stopped briefly started up again. Qing Jinlan's gaze fell on their clasped hands. Do you even have the ingredients at home? Don't make rash promises. Xiaoqing's eyes crinkled in a smile and he squeezed her palm. We can stop by the supermarket first. Qing Liqui's tears had dried and her sobs ceased. She cheered, let's go shopping at the supermarket, then go eat the fruit pizza Dad makes at his home. But the little princess didn't remain excited for long. The effect of the shot plus her crying exhausted her. She fell asleep in her mother's arms before they even reached the supermarket. Xiao Qingzhe looked in the rearview mirror. Asleep? Yes. Then I'll drop you off at Songlin first. I'll go to the supermarket after. Qing Jinlan said, she's sleeping. We won't go to your place. Stop the car, I'll have the driver come get us. But Xiao Qingzhe didn't stop driving. I already promised her. If she wakes up and can't eat it, she'll think I lied. I swore to you I wouldn't lie and I certainly can't lie to my daughter either. Qing Jinlan fell silent for a moment before speaking again. At the door, Xiao Qingzhe held Qing Liqui in one arm and punched in the passcode for Qing Jinlan to see with the other. She deliberately looked away so he recited it aloud. The password is still your birthday. It's never changed. Qing Liqui was laid down on the large bed. Her eyelids and mouth twitched before she fell back into deep slumber. Xiao Qingzhe led the woman behind him out of the bedroom. The supermarket is right downstairs. I'll be back soon. You can take a nap if you're tired. There are drinks in the fridge if you're thirsty. The study computer can be used if you have work to do. The password is your birthday. Every password in this home is your birthday. Qing Jinlan couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. Are you done? Hurry up and go. Xiao Qingzhe smiled. I'm going? Go. Qing Jinlan said impatiently. It was just a trip to the supermarket, not a decade-long voyage to outer space. Xiao Qingzhe pulled her into his embrace. One hug before I go. He said one, but it was just one brief hug before promptly letting go. He had left, but his scent lingered, a faint, crisp fragrance. Qing Jinlan briefly glanced around the living room. She had been here before. The furnishings were largely unchanged. The vase she had bought still adorned the table. She went to the window and gazed motionless at the rain outside, somewhat lost in thought. The doorbell rang, jolting Qing Jinlan from her reverie. Thinking it was him with hands too full to open the door, she hurried over and opened it. Seeing the person outside, she froze for a second. Xiao Yunjing narrowed his eyes. What are you doing here? Qing Jinlan answered, Xiao Qingzhe isn't here but he'll be back soon. Xiao Yunjing was dissatisfied with her attitude. He rapped his cane heavily on the floor. You haven't answered my question. What are you doing here? Qing Jinlan lifted her chin. I don't see how it's any of your business why I'm here. As far as I know, this isn't your home. Read latest OVLS at nv/e/l/buy.com. Xiao Yunjing's eyes narrowed further. As expected of the daughter raised by the Changs. Years have gone by but you're still the same as before, not an ounce of manners in front of your elders. Grandpa, Qing Liqui, who had just woken up, walked over with her hair half sticking up. She held her mother's hand, her voice was soft, and her expression was extremely serious. You were so mean to my mom. Why should my mom be polite to you? My grandpa taught me a word called reciprocity. It means if someone is polite to me, I must also be polite to them. But if someone is not polite to me, then I don't need to be polite to them either. If you want my mom to be polite to you, then you need to be polite first. After Qing Liqui finished speaking, she crooked her finger at her mother and looked at her mother. Mom, am I right? Qing Jinlan stroked her hair gently and smiled at her. Little Liqui is very right. Seeing her mother smile, Qing Liqui's originally serious big eyes also curved into a smile. Xiao Yunjing stared fiercely at Qing Liqui, his sunken eye sockets bursting with anger. But if you look closely, you can see that in those filthy eyeballs there is still a trace of fear. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and all the words were stuck in his throat without saying anything. Qing Jinlan leaned sideways to protect Qing Liqui behind her back and said to the people outside the door, Xiao Qingzhe went to the supermarket downstairs and will be back soon. The owner is not at home, so I won't invite you in. You can wait for him outside, or call him. After finishing speaking, Qing Jinlan closed the door. Qing Liqui poked her head out from behind her mother's back. Mom, who was that old man? Qing Jinlan held her back to the living room and put her on the sofa, an irrelevant person. She looked at her arm. Does your arm still hurt? Qing Liqui shook her head. It doesn't hurt anymore. Usually injections would also hurt, but she didn't know why today she would feel particularly painful. Maybe it was because her mother was here, and her father was here too. She wanted to cling to her parents and act coquettishly for a while longer. Mom, where's Dad? Qing Liqui looked around the house with her eyes. He went to the supermarket because you wanted to eat pizza. Oh Mom, is this Dad's house? Well, Dad's not here, can we visit his house? She was very curious about her father's residence. You can visit, but don't mess with anything. Qing Liqui nodded happily. However, looking at her bare little feet, she wrinkled her nose. Mom, can I visit barefoot? It was her first time at her dad's house, and her dad probably didn't have her slippers here. She actually preferred walking barefoot on the floor, but her mother didn't really like it. You sit down, and Mom will get you slippers. When they entered the door earlier, he pointed out the slippers in the shoe cabinet, summer and winter models, arranged in 2 rows, one large and one small. Qing Jinlan took out a pair of pink slippers from the small row. Just as she was about to turn around, her eyes fell on the white slippers at the very bottom of the shoe cabinet, and her eyes stalled for a moment. Seeing the slippers, Qing Liqui's eyes lit up. Wow, Dad prepared slippers for me, I like them so much. Qing Jinlan put on her slippers and Qing Liqui got off the sofa. Holding her mother's hand, she visited from the living room to the study. Qing Liqui thought, Dad really likes black. The sofa is black, the floor is black, the bookshelf is black, and the desk is black. Coming out of the study, she entered the next room. Qing Liqui's eyes widened. This was a pink room full of dolls, toys, and fairy tale books. There was even a pink piano in the corner. Qing Liqui turned to look at her mother. Mom, is this the room Dad prepared for me? Qing Jinlan stroked her rosy red cheeks with her fingers. You can ask him when he comes back. When will Dad come back? Qing Jinlan replied, it should be a while. Xiao Qingzhe received Xiao Yunjing's phone call and was rushing back from the supermarket. In fact, the property manager could also prepare these things, but he wanted to choose them himself. He regretted leaving the mother and daughter at home alone and going out. No one answered when he called back, so he wasn't sure if she would still be there when he returned. Xiao Yunjing was waiting downstairs, his brows deeply furrowed, his hands tightly grasping his cane. Very similar, not just the eyes, but also the expression when lecturing with a stern face, and the smiling appearance when eyes curved. He thought Xiao Qingzhe already looked very much alike, but Xiao Qingzhe only resembled her in superficial appearance, while the little girl resembled her in temperament. So many years had passed that he thought he had long forgotten what she looked like, but he hadn't forgotten, he just didn't dare to remember. Xiao Qingzhe slammed the brakes and stopped to one side, got out of the car in large strides and stood in front of Xiao Yunjing. Why did you come over? Xiao Yunjing snorted heavily through his nose. What, I can't come over? If I don't come over again, are you going to get married and start a family? Xiao Qingzhe said, don't worry about that, it hasn't reached that step yet. I do want to get a license with her as soon as she agrees, unfortunately she doesn't agree. Xiao Yunjing stared at him viciously, pronouncing each word. I said, anyone is fine, but absolutely not anyone from the Qing family. Xiao Qingzhe replied seriously, for me, there is no one but her. Good, very good. Xiao Yunjing's chest rose and fell rapidly a few times, then get out of Xiao's immediately. Xiao Qingzhe glanced at his watch. Okay, the board will receive my resignation by 8 p.m. tonight. Xiao Yunjing's face had already turned iron blue. If there is nothing else, please go back. It's going to rain again soon. If you catch a cold from the rain, and your wife blames it on me again, I can't afford that responsibility. My place is small, so I won't invite you upstairs. Xiao Qingzhe was about to leave, then stopped. Oh, when you have time to come over, it would be better to pay more attention to what your wife has been busy with lately, there may be surprises, and very big ones. Xiao Yunjing directly threw his cane at him. The cane hit Xiao Qingzhe's chest and fell to the ground with a clang. Xiao Qingzhe brushed his clothes and bent over to pick up the cane. Looking at the cane, he smiled. Grandpa, although you don't want to admit it, you really are old. In the past, a hit like this from you would leave me bruised for 2 or 3 days. Now it feels like leaves falling on me, no different. Uncle Wang, send the old master home. Xiao Qingzhe threw the cane in his hand to the driver next to him. The smile on his face disappeared completely as he turned and strode away. Seeing that the shoes were still in the foyer, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Qing Liqui ran over. Dad, you're back. A warm smile flowed from Xiao Qingzhe's eyes. He bent down to look her in the eye. Dad is back. Did little Liqui sleep well? I slept very well, and my arm doesn't hurt anymore. I'm just waiting to eat the pizza you're going to make. Mom doesn't feel well, so let her rest quietly at home. Xiao Qingzhe understood. I'll go buy things for her. No need, I brought them. Qing Jinlan's bag always had backup supplies out of habit. She looked at him. Did you see the person? I didn't let him in. He's gone now. Sorry, I didn't know he would come over. Qing Jinlan didn't want to discuss these things in front of Qing Liqui, so she interrupted him. Where are the things you bought? Qing Liqui giggled. Mom, Dad was so eager to see you that he left the things in the car and forgot to bring them up. She put her arm around her dad's neck and whispered in Dad's ear, Dad, just now a very fierce old man came, glaring with a pair of eyes, and was so fierce to Mom. I told the old man that it was because he was impolite to Mom first, so Mom was impolite to him. Xiao Qingzhe's face stiffened for a moment. He stroked her hair. Little Liqui did very well. Were you scared by the old man? Qing Liqui shook her head. No, with Mom here, and in Dad's house, I won't be afraid. The bathroom door opened, and Qing Jinlan walked out. She glanced at him without saying anything. Xiao Qingzhe carefully looked at her complexion. It was clear and plain, and he couldn't see anything out of the ordinary, just a little pale. He walked towards her. Do you feel unwell? Qing Jinlan reluctantly nodded. Her period came 2 days early. Xiao Qingzhe understood. I'll go buy things for you. No need, I brought them. Qing Jinlan's bag always had backup feminine products out of habit. She looked at him. Did you see the person? I didn't let him in. He's already left. I'm sorry, I didn't know he would come over. Qing Jinlan didn't want to discuss these things in front of Qing Liqui. She interrupted him. Where are the things you bought? Qing Liqui giggled. Mom, Dad was so eager to see you that he left the things in the car and forgot to bring them up. She put her arm around her dad's neck and whispered, Dad, let's go downstairs together to get them. You're going to make pizza for me, and I want to help. Mom doesn't feel well, so let her rest quietly at home. Okay, little Liqui will go downstairs with Dad. This was exactly what Xiao Qingzhe wanted to hear. He was afraid that Qing Jinlan would leave with little Qing Liqui while he went downstairs to get things. It was perfect that he could take the little one away, forcing the big one to stay at home. When they got back, Qing Liqui would still be there. Qing Liqui really did want to help. As her dad carried up 2 big heavy bags of stuff, she helped carry a carton of milk. As her dad washed his hands, she brought him a towel. As her dad went into the kitchen, she followed him in. As her dad brought her mom a cup of hot water, she covered her mom's belly with a blanket. As her dad peeled apples, she stood by, eating raisins. She thought they were so sweet that she cupped a whole handful in her little hands and ran into the living room to offer some to her mom. Mom, eat these. They're really sweet. Qing Jinlan tried a couple and said, You're right, they are very sweet. Little Qing Liqui smiled sweetly and sat down next to her mom, leaning on her mom's lap. She looked at the cute little cat mug in front of her mom. Mom, your mug is so pretty. Dad said it's your special mug. Qing Jinlan's eyes lingered on the mug for a moment before taking another raisin and putting it in Qing Liqui's mouth. Your special mug is very pretty too. You love Elsa the most. That's right, Qing Liqui sat up straight and took a big gulp from her own little mug. Then she called towards the kitchen, Thank you Dad for buying me this mug. When I drink from it, the water tastes sweet. A low, smiling voice came from the kitchen, as long as little Liqui likes it. The rain continued to patter outside, raindrops hitting the window in long streaks, obscuring the cloudy sky. No matter how hard it rained or how windy it was outside, it could not affect the warm, orange lamplight glowing inside. Qing Liqui was immersed in her cartoon, eyes glued to the screen without blinking. Qing Jinlan carried her empty mug into the kitchen. Xiao Qingzhe looked up and took the mug from her hands, refilling it with hot water before placing it back in front of her. Do you remember this mug? They had bought this set of mugs, white for her and black for him, on a trip to the supermarket long ago. Qing Jinlan was silent for a while before answering, "You kept all this stuff?" The slippers at the bottom shelf of the shoe cabinet, the vase on the table, and the mug she held in her hand right now. "I put everything away before. I was going to have the cleaning service throw them out but kept forgetting to tell them. I guess subconsciously I wanted to keep some memories and couldn't bear to throw them away. I took everything back out when I was tidying up over the past couple days. I thought that if by some chance I could get you to come over someday, and you saw them, I might earn back some points." Qing Jinlan quirked her lips. "You're very honest." Xiao Qingzhe looked at her earnestly. "The things that happened in the past taught me a painful lesson. I don't want there to be any more misunderstandings between us, so I can't hide any thoughts from you anymore." Qing Jinlan met his gaze directly without looking away. "I'm sorry," Xiao Qingzhe said softly. "Sorry for what?" "No matter what he said, before or now, don't take it to heart." Qing Jinlan's eyes shifted. "Some words are hard not to take to heart, especially since I'm petty." Xiao Qingzhe moved to meet her gaze. "Are you angry?" Qing Jinlan didn't reply. Up-to-date OVLS on OVL bin.cm. Xiao Qingzhe took her hand. "Hit me or yell at me, let your anger out. Don't make yourself sick being mad." The oven dinged crisply. "Go check your pizza." Qing Jinlan pulled her hand away, wanting to leave. Xiao Qingzhe blocked her path, slipped on oven mitts, and took the pizza out. The delicious aroma wafted out along with it. He sliced the pizza and blew on a piece before lifting it to her lips. "Try it? It's not hot anymore." She didn't open her mouth, so his hand didn't move. Finally, Qing Jinlan took a bite from his hand. Xiao Qingzhe looked at her expectantly. "How is it?" Qing Jinlan answered, "So. "Really?" Xiao Qingzhe bit into the spot she had just bitten. Looking at her, he said, "I think it's pretty good." "It's not good at all." Xiao Qingzhe accepted the criticism. "Then I'll keep working at it and do even better next time." "You have to, not just try to." Xiao Qingzhe raised a brow. Qing Jinlan's lashes fluttered as she looked at him. "You want to marry into our family. Little Liqui is easy to coax, but my parents are tough critics. Your cooking skills still have a long way to go." Since the old master of their family already detested her so much, she didn't mind making him detest her more. Just like what Qing Jinchuan said, stealing their most outstanding grandson into the Qing family would probably make him hopping mad. Xiao Qingzhe was taken aback. Just then, Qing Liqui smelled the aroma and ran into the kitchen. "Mom, what does marrying into our family mean?" Qing Jinlan pushed him away, but Xiao Qingzhe grasped her wrist. His dark brows and eyes lit up as he locked eyes with her. He replied to Qing Liqui, "It means, your dad wants to marry your mom." "Dad wants to marry mom? Does that mean Dad wants to be the bride?" Qing Liqui was excited and curious. "Dad, will you wear a wedding dress?" The rain had been falling continuously, sometimes heavily and sometimes lightly, bringing some rare coolness to the hot weather. The pizza came out of the oven. Xiao Qingzhe stir-fried some dishes and also cooked a small pot of apple sweet soup. The combination Chinese and Western meal was eaten by Qing Liqui until her little belly was round like a puffed bun. She even patted her belly to let her dad hear the sound, so that her dad would know how delicious his cooking was and that she was about to eat herself to death. Qing Jinlan didn't eat much of the meal. She did, however, drink 2 bowls of the soup. The warmth of the soup entered her stomach and heat rose through her body, easing the uncomfortable heaviness in her belly. Qing Liqui cupped her cheeks in her hands and looked at her mom. With a small sigh of admiration she said, "Mom, you really are so beautiful." Her fair white face was tinged with tender pink. Her pert little nose had beads of sweat on it, making her look as soft and sweet as a juicy honey peach. It made people really want to take a bite. Qing Liqui turned to ask her dad, "Dad, isn't Mom really beautiful?" Xiao Qingzhe replied to his daughter, "She's not just very beautiful, she's especially beautiful." Qing Liqui and her dad smiled at each other, both looking towards Mom. With the gazes of the big and little ones focused on her, Qing Jinlan pinched her daughter's chubby little face and said, "We've eaten the pizza now, shouldn't we get going and head home so you can still have your afternoon nap?" Xiao Qingzhe lightly coughed into his curled fist by his mouth. Qing Liqui understood her dad's hint. "Mom, it's raining hard outside. It's dangerous to drive in the rain." Let's wait until it stops before we leave, okay? Xiao Qingzhe chimed in after his daughter, she can nap here, and when the rain stops I'll take you both home. Just as Qing Jinlan was about to respond, Xiao Qingzhe picked up her soup bowl in front of her. Do you want more soup? I'll ladle you some more. Qing Liqui also held out her little bowl. Me too, Dad. I want a whole bowlful. Okay, Dad will fill up a whole bowl for little Liqui. Xiao Qingzhe would be smiling even in his dreams with how cooperative his daughter was being. Qing Jinlan couldn't resist lightly poking her daughter's little belly. Can you drink any more? Qing Liqui didn't understand her mom's meaning. She clung to her mom's arm and whispered, Mom, after I finish the sweet soup I'll go take a nap, then you and Dad can have a nice date. She knew her mom liked her dad, though she couldn't say how she knew. It was just a feeling. She always had very accurate instincts that were never wrong. Qing Jinlan's face grew hot at her daughter's words. How could little kids nowadays understand so much? Xiao Qingzhe came back with 2 bowls of soup, placing one in front of Qing Jinlan and one in front of Qing Liqui. Seeing his very happy daughter, he asked, What are you two whispering about? Qing Jinlan stuffed a strawberry into Qing Liqui's mouth and replied, Just saying how tasty your sweet soup is. Is that so? Xiao Qingzhe's eyes held pleasant surprise and slyness. I wonder if your parents will like it. Qing Jinlan glared at him. Having swallowed the strawberry, Qing Liqui answered her dad's question. Grandma will definitely like it. Grandma loves eating sweet stuff the most. Grandpa doesn't like sweet food. He likes fish best, especially steamed. Xiao Qingzhe stroked his daughter's head and looked at Qing Jinlan. Then Dad will have to practice making steamed fish well. Qing Jinlan lowered her head to drink her soup, excluding herself from the father-daughter conversation. Let them say whatever they wanted. She shouldn't have spoken in the first place, he always took an inch when given an inch. Having eaten her fill, Qing Liqui was getting drowsy. Along with the pitter-patter rain outside acting like a lullaby, she rested her hands on her little belly with the corners of her mouth curved in a crescent moon smile. Soon she fell asleep on the soft big bed. The sky outside was gloomy, looking more like dusk than noon. In this kind of weather, along with her physical condition, Qing Jinlan was also feeling sleepy. But she didn't want to fall asleep here, so she forcefully stayed alert sitting on the sofa blankly watching some variety show on TV that she didn't know what was about. After tidying up the kitchen, Xiao Qingzhe came out and sat next to her. Go lie on the bed for a bit? Qing Jinlan was a little slow to react due to her drowsiness. She first glanced at him, then after hearing what he said, shook her head. Her hair draped over her shoulders swayed lightly with her movement. Her fair earlobe peeked out temptingly from beneath her dark tresses. Xiao Qingzhe's fingers brushed that tantalizing patch of fairness. He asked in a low voice, then watch a movie? Okay, Qing Jinlan answered vaguely. She didn't want to think about anything right now. Xiao Qingzhe smiled lightly, ruffled her hair, got up and picked up the remote control, selecting a very old Hong Kong movie. A man and woman reunited on an escalator without any dialogue, their feelings conveyed entirely through their expressions. Qing Jinlan hugged a cushion in her arms with her head resting against the sofa back, eyes watching the screen while her thoughts drifted elsewhere. Xiao Qingzhe had his arm draped over the sofa backrest. The two of them weren't sitting too close, but it looked as if she was nestled in his embrace. More than halfway into the movie, there was a wedding scene. The bride wore a white wedding dress and held a bouquet, smiling brightly and radiantly on the green grass. Xiao Qingzhe moved closer. Want to see me wear a wedding dress? Qing Jinlan's hand stroking the cushion patterns stilled. In her mind's eye she substituted his face onto the bride's face in the movie, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously floated up in a smile. Xiao Qingzhe leaned into her. You smiled? Qing Jinlan reined in her smile and slanted him a look. I can't smile? Xiao Qingzhe held her face in his hands, looking into her eyes, gently pleading, smile again. It's been so long since you've smiled at me. Sometimes I even think, if only I were little Liqui. Their eyes met. Qing Jinlan's gaze flickered. She used the cushion to separate some space between them, her eyes turning back to the TV screen. You're not good looking or cute, and don't know how to make people like you. Why should I smile at you? Xiao Qingzhe moved his arm from the sofa backrest to her shoulders, circling her into his embrace. My unattractive face is innate and can't be changed. I'll probably never manage to be cute in this lifetime either. So I'll just have to work hard at learning how to make you like me. Qing Jinlan cut him off. Stop talking. I want to watch the movie. She rested her head on his shoulder, shifting until she found a very comfortable position. With eyes half closed, she listened to the Cantonese dialogue from the movie and the pattering rain on the window, drowsy and on the verge of sleep. Xiao Qingzhe draped a blanket over them and lightly patted her shoulder, looking down at her with the gentlest smile in his eyes. In her drowsiness, Qing Jinlan mumbled, "Will it cause you a lot of trouble?" Xiao Qingzhe didn't catch what she said. He brought his ear to her mouth. What? Will your family's patriarch give you a hard time? Xiao Qingzhe looked at her. That's unimportant. He hesitated briefly before continuing, unsure if now was the right time to bring up the past. Back then. Qing Jinlan leaned in to seal his lips, stopping his words. She knew what he was going to say and didn't really want to bring up anything about that day. The soft lips only brushed against his for a moment before leaving. Xiao Qingzhe sighed inwardly, but his expression was playfully improper. When I kiss you, I'm not nearly so perfunctory. Qing Jinlan lazily leaned into him. Blinking her sleepy eyes, she said, I don't want to move. Her slightly parted red lips glistened temptingly, as if languidly inviting him. Xiao Qingzhe's Adam's apple tensed. He slowly lowered his head. Since she didn't want to move, he would move for her. The muffled sound of water stirred faintly, drowned out by the rain. Gloomy rainy days always made people feel listless. After a long time, Qing Jinlan covered her mouth with a blanket, breathing rapidly as she looked at him with misty eyes full of accusation. "Vi sit en velben, cm for you ovals." Xiao Qingzhe brushed aside her stray hair and asked her seriously, "Did I satisfy you, meow meow?" Qing Jinlan pressed her bent knees against his chest. Xiao Qingzhe pretended to grunt in pain as he fell on top of her, pushing her into the sofa. She was below, he was above her, using his magnetic voice to seduce her. "Do you want to come here again next Saturday for another day trip? I can show you if my cooking skills have improved." Qing Jinlan closed her eyes, blocking out everything she saw, and replied coldly, "I'm not coming." Xiao Qingzhe said, "Otherwise I'll really dig a secret tunnel from next door in the middle of the night." Qing Jinlan didn't care. "Go ahead, it'll be easy for you to dig, but if my dad finds out, it won't just be a broken leg." Xiao Qingzhe twirled a strand of her hair around his finger. "I feel like I'm being treated worse than a high school romance. At least they can pass notes in class, secretly hold hands between periods, and go to cafes or KFC after school to do homework together. Now I can hardly even see you." Qing Jinlan lifted her eyelids and looked at him with a hint of a smile. "You seem experienced. Have you passed notes to someone before? Held someone's hand? What did the coffee taste like after school, sweet or bitter?" "I've never had any." Xiao Qingzhe was startled, then laughed and leaned on her. "That coffee was probably neither sweet nor bitter," he whispered, biting her ear. "It was probably sour, even more sour than vinegar." "Were you jealous?" Qing Jinlan closed her eyes again, not wanting to entertain his baseless speculation. Xiao Qingzhe's lips touched her fluttering eyelids. "I've never passed notes to anyone, never held anyone's hand, and I don't know what coffee tastes like after school." Qing Jinlan scoffed softly. "As if." Xiao Qingzhe smiled. "I really haven't done those things, but I've seen them happen often." His breath blew her trembling lashes. "Has anyone ever passed you a note?" She answered with silence. Xiao Qingzhe's hand rested on her waist, her ticklish spot that would make her shudder at the slightest touch. Qing Jinlan pressed down firmly on his hand to keep him still. But she couldn't stop him at all. Xiao Qingzhe's hand went under her shirt along her waistband, and he asked again, "Meow meow, has anyone ever passed you a note?" Qing Jinlan opened her eyes, her cheeks already flushed from his movements. Her voice trembled. "I'm going on a business trip next week." Xiao Qingzhe's hand paused as his gaze sharpened. "Where to?" Taking advantage of his distraction, Qing Jinlan pushed him off the sofa. She quickly got up and stepped away, straightening her disheveled clothes and looking down at the man lying on the carpet. "To Mars." First thing on Monday morning, Xiao Corporation was thrown into chaos. The board of directors received Xiao Qingzhe's resignation letter, but he didn't come to work and his phone was unreachable. All calls were forwarded to Kong Yichuan. Kong Yichuan took a sip of water, took a deep breath, and gave the same explanation for the 101st time to the person on the other end of the line. "I also don't know the specifics. I can't reach President Xiao either." Xiao Zhangting was woken up by the barrage of phone calls amidst the embrace of a beauty. He scrolled through the pile of messages on WeChat, then leaned into the beauty's arms again to hurriedly call his mother back. Mom, what's going on? Xiao Qingze resigned? Have you made a move? Wow, Mom, you're too amazing. If you weren't going to make a move, then don't, but once you do, you silently got rid of that brat. What do you need me and Jingyun to do now? Wu Jingyao impatiently interrupted him. He resigned on his own initiative. Huh? Why would he resign? Is he sick? Xiao Zhangting had just woken up and his mind wasn't very clear yet. The words slipped out before he could stop them. He had been scheming and plotting his whole life to obtain something he could never get, yet Xiao Qingze could just say he didn't want it anymore. Wu Jingyao didn't want to listen to his nonsense. Tell Jingyun to go to the company immediately. Your dad is already on the way there to hold a board meeting. Xiao Zhangting had the beauty hold his phone while he got dressed. Mom, what about Xiao Qingze? Is he participating too? Who knows? No one can find him now. He's not answering his phone and there's no one at his home. No idea where he ran off to. Hurry up, you and Jingyun have to get there before your dad. Wu Jingyao hung up after saying her piece, then took out another phone to make another call. While some were in deep water, others were enjoying peace. Yuan Zhongzhou walked out with a head of bed hair and exclaimed F***ck when he smelled the fragrance coming from the kitchen. The company's exploding right now with everyone looking for you, yet here you are making me breakfast. He looked at the dining table, then the pots on the stove, cursing again. What kind of blessed life did I have in my last life to deserve chicken soup for breakfast? What time did you get up? Xiao Qingze didn't even spare him a glance. Yuan Zhongzhou sat down, content to wait for the food. Boss Xiao, what's our plan now? It's so hot out, want to go on vacation somewhere? You just got a new private island, right? Let's go there? Xiao Qingze turned off the stove. Where I go for vacation is my business. You go wash up and get to work. Why do I still need to work when everyone knows I'm your man? If you're gone, what's the point of me staying there? Yuan Zhongzhou complained. Xiao Qingze retorted, firstly, you're not my man. Secondly, I resigned, you didn't. Yuan Zhongzhou deflated. He thought he could take advantage of this to go on a nice long vacation since the weather was too hot for work. And why are you packing food? I'll go to the company after eating. With the chaos today, it'd just be walking into an ambush if I went early. Yuan Zhongzhou watched Xiao Qingze packing the cooked food into lunch boxes. Xiao Qingze glanced at him. Did I say this was for you? If you want to eat, there's a restaurant downstairs and a cafeteria at the company. Yuan Zhongzhou was dumbfounded. Then who was he bustling around cooking for? Qing Jinlan drank a cup of coffee first thing upon entering her office. She wasn't feeling well today after a poor night of sleep, and her upset stomach prevented her from eating much breakfast either. The phone rang but she was too lazy to answer it. Yet she couldn't ignore it completely since she had come to work, and she couldn't be lazy about work matters. Her back straightened, but upon seeing the name on the screen, all her energy deflated again. What do you want? She answered apathetically. I'm downstairs at Lanchuan Tower. Xiao Qingze leaned against the car with one hand in his pocket, head tilted back to look up at the building. Qing Jinlan got up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the ant-sized people and cars below. Yet she felt like she could sense which one was him. Why are you here instead of at the company at this time? To deliver breakfast/lunch. Are you busy? Should I come up or you come down? I already ate breakfast, not hungry yet. Qing Jinlan turned away from the window and returned to her desk, typing Xiao Corporation into the search bar. Rows of the latest news relating to Xiao Corporation popped up and she skimmed through them briefly. Over the phone, Xiao Qingze replied, "It won't fill you up, I simmered some chicken soup." Isn't there a saying that simmering chicken soup best tests a chef's skills? I'm working hard to improve my cooking so I can become a good husband. I want you to try my chicken soup and tell me how it is. So you're aiming to become a good husband now? Qing Jinlan paced around slowly, heading for the exit. Xiao Qingze laughed. That's a good direction to work towards. I'll strive towards it. But there's one key question, who would be my wife? He paused before continuing slowly, how about you? Qing Jinlan rejected bluntly, no. Xiao Qingzi's laughter deepened. Coming down? No, why would I? I already said I ate breakfast. I heard the door open, he called out her lie. See, you're always contradicting yourself like this. Should I just take whatever you say as the opposite from now on? No means yes, don't like means. Qing Jinlan briskly hung up. Xiao Qingzi listened to the lifeless beeps, regretting that he had been too forward and should have used a more tactful way to expose her lie. After waiting for a while without anyone coming out, she had likely stormed off in embarrassment, refusing to see him. Couldn't see the person, but at least had to deliver the soup. He scrolled to find Tangy Cheng's number, finger hovering over the screen as his eyes fixed on the figure walking out of the revolving doors not far away, lips curving up slowly. Qing Jinlan wore all black today, wide leg pants on bottom, linen blazer up top. To improve her sickly complexion, she had applied a matte, true red lipstick. Though she wore flats, her aura seemed even stronger than usual. Xiao Qingzi leaned against the car without moving, waiting for her to approach step by step until she stopped half a meter away, meeting his gaze. Xiao Qingzi straightened and closed the distance by a step, greeting her, "Morning, President Qing." Qing Jinlan's expressionless face reddened slightly at his words, reminded of certain moments when he had addressed her like that, albeit in a deeper, raspier voice. Don't call me that anymore. She didn't want to hear that title from him again, regardless of when. Why not? Xiao Qingzi feigned ignorance, but the laughter in his eyes gave him away. The two were too eye-catching. Passers-by would inevitably glance their way. Xiao Qingzi opened the passenger door. Let's talk in the car. Qing meeting her glare, he smiled and corrected himself. Meow meow. Qing Jinlan threw him an icy look. She bent down to get in the car and Xiao Qingzi also bent down, leaning inside. Qing Jinlan pressed back against the seat warily, watching him. What are you trying to do? Xiao Qingzi hadn't originally planned anything, but hearing her say that made him feel obligated to do something. He leaned closer. What do you want me to do? Qing Jinlan pushed him. We're under my company building. There was a click as the seatbelt fastened. Only then did Qing Jinlan realize her mistake in misunderstanding him. But why buckle up? Xiao Qingzi answered her unspoken question. I'm not trying anything. Since we can't stay under your company building, we should find a quiet place to talk. Qing Jinlan lifted her leg to kick him. Xiao Qingzi pressed down her leg, rubbing her hair gently while soothing in a tone used for placating a temperamental child. Be good, no rush. His actions made Qing Jinlan want to kick him even more. He held her hand, occasionally glancing over with a smile. With the morning rush hour past, traffic wasn't too congested and the car rode steadily. Her heart inexplicably sped up and even her palms grew damp, giving her the mistaken feeling that they were eloping to do something naughty. The car finally stopped in a small alley. The dense sycamore trees on both sides of the road covered the alley, forming a natural shade. There was no one on the road, but a dog from someone's yard kept barking. The barking, along with the constant cicadas chirping in the sycamore trees, made it anything but quiet. Xiao Qingzi reached back and took out a bag. With a serious look, he said, What did you think I was going to do? Didn't I say I was going to treat you to chicken soup? I couldn't possibly let your employees see their boss come out to slack off during work hours. That wouldn't look good. Qing Jinlan felt like she had been tricked and wanted to pour the chicken soup over his head. However, the soup smelled delicious. She didn't have much of an appetite originally, but when he opened the thermos, Qing Jinlan felt like drinking a bowl wouldn't be so bad. He had brought along bowls and spoons. Qing Jinlan took them and drank a spoonful. The soft, soothing soup slid down her throat and warmed her stomach. She temporarily forgave him for his earlier behavior. How is it? He asked, looking at her expression. Qing Jinlan replied, It's terrible. Her mouth said it was terrible, but her hand lifted the spoon for 2 more sips. Xiao Qingzi reached out to gather her stray hair behind her back. If it's so terrible, drink more. With soup this bad, no one else would drink it except to give me face. Qing Jinlan glared at him, then drank another spoonful. Did you get kicked off the board of directors by your grandfather? I resigned voluntarily. What's the difference? My version sounds better. Qing Jinlan. Read the latest stories novilbin.com. She could never get a straightforward word out of his mouth. Xiao Qingzi moved closer to her. Worried about me? Qing Jinlan didn't deny it. Didn't you say you wanted to reclaim what belonged to your grandmother? How will you do that after getting kicked off the board? Xiao Qingzhe leaned in closer. Guess what I'm best at? Looking into his deep eyes, Qing Jinlan replied, I guess the only thing you're best at is being a scoundrel. Xiao Qingzhe broke into a smile, his nose brushing against hers. You're so clever, that's the right guess. Hooking her chin with his hand, his lips came down on hers. Qing Jinlan was holding a bowl and couldn't push him away. She worried the soup would spill on the car, and worried someone might walk by. But before long, those worries were tossed aside as all her nerves and senses followed his tongue. Suddenly, his tongue stopped moving and retreated from her lips. He just lightly sucked on her lip line, breathing out her name between breaths, calling her Qing Miao Miao over and over. Qing Jinlan felt a burning thirst in her throat. She reached out with the tip of her tongue. When it touched his softness, a bright gleam flashed through Xiao Qingzhe's dark eyes. Pressing the back of her head, he entered again, conquering and plundering. In the end, the surging tides receded back to still waters. Qing Jinlan looked at him with swollen lips and dewy eyes. He fed her a spoonful of chicken soup, saying, See, besides being a scoundrel, I'm also best at strategic retreat. So don't worry about me. What's meant to be mine, I'll get in the end. Whether he could get it in the end was uncertain. But she wouldn't let him take advantage again in the meantime. He went back on her blacklist, both his numbers blocked. Xiao Qingzhe could only call his daughter. Qing Liqui held up her smartwatch phone, chatting excitedly with Dad about what happened at kindergarten. Xiao Qingzhe listened attentively to his daughter and to any sounds from the other end of the call. But he didn't hear another voice. He asked, Where's Mom? Mom's packing. She's going on a business trip tomorrow. Where is she going? Qing Liqui thought for a moment but couldn't remember the name of the city. I think it's where Mom went to college. Mom said she'll bring back tasty treats for me, and lots of gifts too. After Qing Liqui finished, her tone became a little solemn. Dad, you haven't been dating Mom seriously, have you? Why do you say that? Otherwise you wouldn't not know about such an important trip. You haven't been paying attention to Mom, have you? Xiao Qingzhe explained, Dad has been dating Mom very seriously. But Dad upset Mom, so that's why she didn't tell Dad about the business trip. Qing Liqui couldn't accept this explanation. If you were seriously dating Mom, how could you still upset her? Xiao Qingzhe. Qing Jinlan was on a business trip this time to attend an internal exchange meeting for the hotel industry and to visit Jiang Meng, who had been suffering a lot due to her pregnancy and was in dire need of comfort from a good friend. On the first day of the conference, Qing Jinlan only made a brief appearance, leaving the rest to Tang Yicheng while she went straight to Jiang Meng's home. Upon seeing her, Jiang Meng's eyes brimmed with tears as she pulled Qing Jinlan into a tight 5-minute embrace. Before getting pregnant, she knew pregnancy would be grueling, but only after becoming pregnant did she realize the suffering she had imagined wasn't even 1,000th of the actual agony. She had no idea when she would make it through this phase. Qing Jinlan patted her shoulder to comfort her, I brought you some tasty food made by Aunt Chu. Jiang Meng's tearful eyes instantly snapped back as she exclaimed, What is it? What is it? Hurry, take it out! Jinlan, you're here to save me. I've been craving Aunt Chu's cooking even in my dreams. Qing Jinlan had specifically brought an insulated box full of food, enough to cover the table so they wouldn't have to cook dinner separately. Jiang Meng's husband was also away on a business trip, so Jiang Meng wouldn't let Qing Jinlan leave tonight. They hadn't seen each other in so long and definitely needed to catch up all night. Jiang Meng reluctantly ate the last rib, patting her belly as she reclined on the sofa. Jinlan, when you leave, pack me in your suitcase and take me home with you. I'm easy to care for, just feed me Aunt Chu's cooking 3 times a day. Qing Jinlan brought her a glass of water, sure, as long as you're willing to leave your husband behind. The trip back, my suitcase is all yours. Jiang Meng wrapped her arms around Qing Jinlan's neck, what's there to be reluctant about? Just let him keep the empty house, I'm coming with you on a honeymoon. Qing Jinlan laughed, sounds good. Little Liqui has been missing her Auntie Meng like crazy, asking me every day when she can meet Auntie Meng's little baby. Jiang Meng stared intently at Qing Jinlan's neck, squinting her eyes before letting out a shriek. Qing Jinlan jumped in fright, what's wrong? Does something hurt? Jiang Meng grabbed her collar, and Qing Jinlan immediately understood. There were marks left on her neck yesterday in his car that she had covered up with concealer during the day, but she had forgotten about it after showering at night. Sharp-eyed Jiang Meng had spotted it. You have a man now? Jiang Meng refused to let go, peering closely at her neck while making continuous tsk sounds. This force, this intensity, don't tell me you found yourself a little wolf pup? Qing Jinlan couldn't break free lest she hurt Jiang Meng, so she could only sit down on the carpet beside the sofa. Annoyed, she shot Jiang Meng a glare. What little wolf pup? I don't like little wolf pups. If not a little wolf pup, then a little puppy? Gentle and innocent under the sheets but a ravenous wolf on the bed pressing you down unable to get up? Qing Jinlan slapped her hand. Stop with this nonsense, watch the baby's prenatal education. Jiang Meng waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry, my darling baby is full and asleep. Don't try to change the subject, and don't tell me it's just mosquito bites either. I'm not little Liqui, come on, tell me, if not a little wolf pup or little puppy, then who is it? Qing Jinlan picked up the water glass from the coffee table, fingers stroking the rim, taking a long time before responding softly, someone from the past. From the past? Jiang Meng was puzzled for a second before realizing, tentatively asking, little Liqui's dad? Qing Jinlan lowered her head to drink some water, not denying it. Jiang Meng got excited again. Damn, Jinlan, you definitely have to let me meet him this time. A man who could make you willing to reconcile after so long, he must be some kind of godly figure. Don't tell me you're about to get married? Jiang Meng knew Qing Jinlan had a mysterious long-distance boyfriend in college that none of them had met. She was supposed to bring him to their dorm's farewell party after graduation, but before that party happened, she and that mysterious boyfriend had already broken up. Later, she became pregnant, and although Jiang Meng never asked, she could guess little Liqui's father was him. All these years, with her status, she could have had any man she wanted, and many pursued her, yet she never dated anyone again, not even a hint of flirting. There could be only one reason, her heart still held someone from the past she couldn't reach. Qing Jinlan told her not to get agitated. He's no godly figure, just a very ordinary man, and who knows when we'll separate again. Jiang Meng didn't believe her at all. I don't care, a pregnant woman's wishes must be fulfilled. Before you separate again, let me meet this very ordinary man. Qing Jinlan was helpless against her. Fine, when the opportunity arises, okay? Then when my darling baby has his 1-month celebration, if you two haven't separated yet, bring him along. Jiang Meng created an opportunity herself. Okay. Qing Jinlan finally agreed. Beside them, the phone screen had darkened after being bumped around in the earlier chaos. The next morning, Tangy Cheng came with a driver to pick up Ms. Cheng. Today's schedule was important, and Ms. Cheng still had to give a speech on stage later. Upon receiving Tangy Cheng's call, Qing Jinlan headed downstairs. Jiang Meng followed to send her off and take a short walk outside. Qing Jinlan was chatting and laughing with Jiang Meng when she saw the person standing with Tangy Cheng, and her eyes wavered as she stopped mid-sentence. Tangy Cheng gave a little cough to clear his throat, unsure how to explain the current situation to Ms. Cheng. Because he also didn't know what was going on. The car had been arranged by the hosts, but when he came downstairs earlier, seeing who was sitting in the driver's seat gave him a huge shock. He knew the CEO of Shao Group had suddenly resigned, and Shao Group's stock was crashing badly as a result. What he didn't know was that after resigning, Shao Group's CEO had become a driver, and was now Ms. Cheng's driver no less. What were the odds? Jiang Meng recognized Tangy Cheng and greeted him. Her bright eyes naturally slid to the man standing beside Tangy Cheng. She couldn't help but notice him. Jinlan, is he from your company too? Tangy Cheng didn't answer, because he didn't know how to answer. Qing Jinlan opened her mouth to speak but closed it again, still unsure how to introduce him to Jiang Meng. With no one making introductions, Xiao Qingzai took the initiative to step forward and introduce himself. Hello, I'm Ms. Cheng's temporary driver today. Jiang Meng thought, with his looks, temperament and elegance, she would believe it if he said he was the CEO of any listed company. She couldn't restrain herself from blurting out her thoughts. You're the most handsome driver I've ever seen. Xiao Qingzai's lips quirked up into a faint smile. You flatter me, I'm just an ordinary driver. Jiang Meng found this statement oddly familiar, but her baby brain failed to recall where she had heard it before. Qing Jinlan patted Jiang Meng's arm. I have to go. There's a morning meeting, can't be late. Let's contact each other later. Jiang Meng nodded. Before you leave, we must meet up for another meal. Otherwise we won't see each other again for months. Okay, definitely another get-together. I'm going now. Just as Tangy Cheng was about to open the car door for Miss Cheng, the man beside him had already stepped up first, opening the door and keeping his hand above it to prevent her head from bumping. Tangy Cheng wondered if he should say this temporary driver was quite considerate in doing his job. The car ride was silent. Qing Jinlong rested with eyes closed in the back seat while the temporary driver in the driver's seat concentrated on driving. Tangy Cheng quietly faded into the background as a passenger. At a red light, Qing Jinlong opened her eyes, meeting the gaze of the driver in front of her through the rearview mirror. Their eyes tangled briefly before quickly looking away again. Upon arriving at the venue, the driver would normally wait outside, but considering this driver's special status and the leaders not having voiced otherwise, Tangy Cheng took out his phone, intending to contact the organizers for an extra entry pass. But the driver beside him had already taken out an event badge from his suit pocket and hung it around his neck. It was the official event badge from the organizers. Qing Jinlong looked at him coldly. Xiao Qingzhe generously held it up for her to see. Any questions? Qing Jinlong asked. Are you very free? The Xiao family was now in a mess, but he seemed to be doing well, working here as a driver for a while and then as a staff member for the event organizer. Xiao Qingze nodded, not very free, extremely free. I was kicked out of the company and lost my job. I'm just an unemployed vagrant now, with nothing much to do but kill time. He took the work pass from Tangy Cheng and walked closer to her, hanging it around her neck. Did I embarrass you? Qing Jinlong was puzzled. What do you mean? Xiao Qingze's fingertip gently caressed her neck, helping her straighten the lanyard. Because I'm an unemployed vagrant now, you don't even want to introduce me to your friends. Tangy Cheng had already retreated 2 meters away. He was practically bursting a blood vessel holding it in. He really wanted to point out that although Xiao had been kicked out of the Xiaos, he still had Qianmiao. He was still the boss of Qianmiao. And he had even transformed into a part-time driver. No matter what, he could never become an unemployed vagrant. Acting pitiful and aggrieved really didn't suit him. Qing Jinlong raised her brows. How do you want me to introduce you? Xiao Qingze replied, it shouldn't be about what I want, but what you want. Of course, you can introduce me however you like. Since it's all up to what I think, why are you still yapping away? Qing Jinlong snatched her pass back and turned to walk into the conference hall. Tangy Cheng pretended he hadn't heard anything. He quickly followed General Cheng, while Xiao Qingze smiled to himself and leisurely trailed after the two, thumb caressing his forefinger which still held her warmth and fragrance. The attendees were all leaders in the hotel industry. Qing Jinlong was scheduled to speak first. Unlike others who stuck to their script, Qing Jinlong was used to speaking off the cuff. In an ash-gray knee-length skirt suit paired with a simply tailored white blouse, her black hair lightly twisted up to reveal her elegant neckline. Pearlescent earrings shimmered brightly on her petite earlobes, making it hard to discern whether the pearls or her translucent earlobes were whiter. She was relaxed in her posture, her voice gentle and limpid. Her clear gaze occasionally swept across the audience, settling on one spot, then casually shifting away again. A hint of shy red seemed to appear on her fair ear tips, slowly fading from sight. Xiao Qingze lounged lazily in his seat, eyes fixed unwaveringly on the woman on stage, the smile at the corners of his mouth deepening. Sitting beside Xiao Qingze, Tangy Cheng wondered if it was his imagination, but the air in the hall seemed rather viscous, carrying the sour, rotten scent of romance, making this newly heartbroken man, blocked by his ex, feel a twinge of jealousy. After the meeting was a cocktail party. With Miss Cheng's status drawing attention on its own, and her impressive speech earlier, people kept coming up to toast and chat with her. Holding a wine glass, Qing Jinlong effortlessly conversed and socialized. Tangy Cheng followed behind her to collect name cards. Xiao Qingze stood to the side, taking her glass from her hand and replacing it with a fresh one, which observant onlookers could discern held water rather than alcohol. His actions were overly familiar and intimate. Plus, with his outstanding looks and noble temperament, it was hard not to prompt the question, and you are? Xiao Qingze just smiled faintly, not answering. Tangy Cheng and the rest of the spectators pricked up their ears. Qing Jinlong's hand clenched around the stem of the glass hesitated briefly before she responded, my boyfriend. Tangy Cheng was thrilled. The crowd contained excited, gossipy, and sourly disappointed ones. They had hoped to chat her up and try their luck at winning the fair lady's affections, only to discover she was already taken. Someone had already captured the beauty's heart. Xiao Qingze's expression remained gently smiling as he inconspicuously shifted closer to Qing Jinlan until their shoulders touched. Dressed in a silvery gray suit and white shirt today, they had unintentionally matched in couple outfits. Standing together, one tall and stately, the other gentle and delicate, they looked extraordinarily well-matched to anyone's eyes. Someone introduced themselves and shook Xiao Qingze's hand. Xiao Qingze likewise extended his hand. Qing Jinlan glanced at him. Everyone present was familiar with the name Xiao Qingze, but since he rarely appeared publicly, few knew his appearance. If he was exposed as Xiao Qingze in this setting, given how quickly gossip spread nowadays, everyone would know the identity of Miss Cheng's boyfriend within the hour, likely causing huge waves. Xiao Qingze briefly clasped the proffered hand before letting go, reporting his name as Qing Go, Qing as in mission accomplished, Go as in sleep on brushwood and taste gall. Tangy Cheng nearly spat out his mouth full of wine. He had no idea where this bizarre name had materialized from, but hearing Xiao's explanation, it suddenly sounded like an excellent name. Qing Jinlan seemingly indifferently took a sip from her glass, though laughter leaked from the corners of her lips before she smoothly hid it. The other party was first taken aback, then remarked, "What a nice name. Mr. Qing is also in the hotel business?" Qing Jinlan answered for him, "No, he's my chauffeur." "Yes, I'm her driver," Xiao Qingze chimed in, the very image of a henpecked husband. Everyone unanimously let out a drawn-out "oh," with varying vivid reactions written across their faces as they imagined the implications. Tangy Cheng couldn't bear to keep watching this scene. Did all bosses have compulsory acting classes? Or were the two bosses he knew just exceptionally gifted at acting without needing to learn? Over half the cocktail party had passed and Qing Jinlan was getting tired of socializing. Xiao Qingze leaned in to ask her, "Go out for some air?" Qing Jinlan nodded. The two walked out to a cafe outside the event hall. It wasn't very crowded inside, and the air conditioning was turned up high. Xiao Qingze took off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders, bringing her to a secluded corner. "What would you like?" he asked. Qing Jinlan propped her elbow on the table, cupping her cheek in thought before replying, "Americano, iced." He stood while she sat. Xiao Qingze's gaze dropped to her as he gently tucked the hair by her cheek behind her ear. "You shouldn't drink iced when you're unwell. It'll make you feel worse later." Qing Jinlan batted her lashes at him defiantly. "I'm done with my period already. I want iced." Though she kept Xiao Liqui on a tight leash, she liked cold drinks in summer. Xiao Qingze's eyes grew dark. His thumb stroked her earlobe as he murmured huskily, "I see." The cafe was very quiet. Both spoke in hushed voices, as if exchanging sweet nothings between lovers. Xiao Qingze returned with the coffees, sitting opposite her. 2 cups, 1 iced, 1 not. He placed the uniced one before her, raising the iced cup to her lips. "You can only have 1 sip, or it'll bother you later." Qing Jinlan glared at him. Xiao Qingze's lips curved as he held her gaze. Finally Qing Jinlan conceded defeat and took a sip from his hand. The cup was promptly confiscated after that 1 sip, as if she might cheat and drink more. She idly stirred her coffee with the straw, sulky over her defeat. Gentle music drifted through the cafe. Xiao Qingze wrapped his lips around the straw stained with lipstick and took a sip, before releasing it to softly ask her, "Do you like my new name?" After a long pause, Qing Jinlan finally spoke, though she had guessed as much, she hadn't expected him to actually explain it so seriously. "Xiao Qingze, I never realized you were so shameless." Xiao Qingze's hand reached across the table and tweaked the corner of her mouth. "Why suppress your smile if you want to laugh?" Qing Jinlan slapped his hand away, but the smile at the corner of her lips did not fade again, instead growing bigger. After a while, she covered her mouth and eyes with her hand, lowering her head so that only her shaking shoulders could be seen. Xiao Qingze grabbed the hand she had resting on the table and squeezed her soft palm. "It's fine to laugh for a while." It took Qing Jinlan a good while to raise her head again. The smile had not completely faded from her pink cheeks, and the light swirling in her almond eyes was like flowing water. "You're so nosy, telling me whether to eat ice cream, and now telling me to laugh or not." Her soft voice was sweet and cool, but also carried a touch of charming coquettishness. Xiao Qingze's heart stirred. He leaned over to tightly clasp their hands and sought her gaze. "Then will you watch over me?" "I'll do whatever you say. If you tell me to go east, I definitely won't go west." Qing Jinlan offered him the pink side of her neck, averting her eyes out the window as she spoke to the glass. I'm too lazy to watch over you. Xiao Qing's eyes lingered on that tempting shade of pink. He rapped the table with his knuckles and picked up her bag beside her. Qing Jinlan looked back at him. What are you doing? Let's go. Where to? Qing Jinlan got up to follow him. With him walking ahead and her behind, Xiao Qingze held her hand as they left the cafe and headed straight for the parking lot. Once in the car, Qing Jinlan asked again, where are we going? Xiao Qingze picked up her hand and brought it to his lips for a fleeting touch. His tone was half teasing, half serious. Running away to elope. Do you want to come with me? The warmth from his lips seared Qing Jinlan's hand, making her heart tremble. She retracted her hand, staring straight ahead. You've already lured me into your car before asking if I'd go with you or not. Xiao Qingze locked the car doors. Anyway, I've kidnapped you onto my pirate ship. Whether you want to go or not, you have to come with me now. Qing Jinlan scolded him lightly. Robber. Though it sounded like a reprimand, to Xiao Qingze's ears it was more like she was acting cute. He stepped on the accelerator. The buildings and trees along the road kept retreating as the scenery outside grew increasingly familiar. Over 7 years, some things had changed while others remained the same. She hadn't been back here since graduating. Even when she had business in this city, she would purposely avoid these few streets. Qing Jinlan looked at him questioningly, unsure of his intention in bringing her here. Xiao Qingze parked the car in front of a small shop and gestured out the window with his chin. Want to eat red bean cake? Following his line of sight, Qing Jinlan's eyes lit up with pleasant surprise. This shop was still here. When she was a student, she really loved their red bean cakes and would buy some almost every day for snacks during summer. Understanding her reaction, Xiao Qingze undid his seatbelt and got out of the car. I'll go buy some. Qing Jinlan rolled down her window and rested her elbow on the open frame, propping her chin lazily on her arm as she watched outside. Dappled sunlight filtered through the overlapping tree canopies, falling on the ground and that tall, straight figure. He suddenly glanced back, his dark eyes directly colliding with hers. Basking under the blazing sun, she momentarily forgot to look away. Xiao Qingze strode back to the car. He held her face in both hands and leaned down to plant a kiss at the corner of her mouth, featherlight and fleeting. Wait for me, I'll be right back. There were no passers-by on the street, but his unexpected action still left Qing Jinlan blushing to her neck. She quickly rolled up the window to block out the sunlight and his dazzling smile. He returned swiftly. The heat had yet to fade from her face when the cool, sweet red bean cake entered her mouth, cooling her down somewhat. Watching her slowly chewing on those red lips, Xiao Qingze asked, still the same taste as before? Qing Jinlan nodded. It was still the taste she remembered, unchanged. Do you want some? Xiao Qingze started the car. I'll eat later. Qing Jinlan's gaze fell upon the bag he had tossed onto the center console, and the heat that had just receded from her face began climbing again. The car eventually pulled into a small neighborhood and stopped in front of a red brick, white-walled townhouse. We're here. Xiao Qingze undid his seatbelt first before undoing hers. Read the latest stories novilbin.com. Qing Jinlan didn't move. What are we doing here? When she graduated, she had hired an agent to sell this house, along with all the memories of her and him inside. The house looked the same as before, with the umbrellas by the entrance, stuffed animals on the sofa, photos on the wall, and even the succulents on the balcony. Qing Jinlan stared at the grown succulents and asked softly, Did you buy this house? Yes, Xiao Qingze stood behind her, following her eyes to look over everything in the house. Although he had bought the house, he hadn't come back even once. He only had the housekeeper maintain it, keeping everything as it was originally. Why? Xiao Qingze looked at her downturned profile and said, Probably because you really liked the red bean cakes here, so I thought that one day you would come back. Qing Jinlan picked up the watering can and carefully watered each of the succulents. She didn't say anything, so Xiao Qingze quietly accompanied her. Back then, she had given each succulent a name and had even insisted that he remember all their names. She said that when watering them, you had to call them by name and communicate with them often so they could grow faster. He didn't know where she had gotten this silly notion, but he had indeed remembered all their names. Xiao Qingze scrutinized the succulents, trying to match them with the names in his memory. Suddenly, he noticed something amiss. Falling on the succulents, in addition to water, were her tears, silently trailing down her cheeks and dropping into the quiet air, splashing into his heart. Xiao Qingzi panicked a little and hurriedly turned her shoulders towards him. Why are you crying? Qing Jinlan held up her shoulders, not looking at him. She messily wiped away her tears with the back of her hand. Her voice was calm without any crying. Xiao Qingzi, stop trying to coax me with your nonsense. For as long as she could remember, she rarely ever cried. She didn't like shedding tears in front of anyone, much less hide alone somewhere to cry quietly. Not during the breakup, not that chaotic night when she heard those words from him, not even when she gave birth to Qing Liqui. She prided herself on handling her emotions smoothly, without needing tears as an outlet. She didn't understand what triggered these sudden tears. Perhaps it was the glaring sunlight, or perhaps she was least able to resist memories of the past. Once the floodgates opened, it became difficult to stop the tears. Qing Jinlan was annoyed at her own weakness and loss of composure. She was also annoyed that he had brought her back here. She tried to avoid him and head to the bathroom. Xiao Qingzi blocked her path, leaning down anxiously to look at her. Go away, Qing Jinlan shielded her eyes with her arm. Xiao Qingzi gently wiped away her continuous tears. He confessed to her frankly, I'm sorry. What I said earlier was mostly to placate you. If I'm being honest, I bought this house more out of spite than to keep a memento. You wanted a clean break from the past to start a new life. I insisted on keeping everything, out of stubbornness. Looking at her flushed nose, his tone was astringent. Meow meow, wasn't I really stupid? I had time to be petty with you, but never asked you why you wanted to break up. If you had said you wanted to break up and I had simply asked why, we wouldn't have ended up like this. It's all my fault. Back then they were too young, with too much pride and ego. They constantly tested each other, silently jealous, endlessly nitpicked, and pretended not to care. But they could never bring themselves to ask the most important question, why are you with me? What is the answer? They feared knowing the answer yet couldn't control their longing to know. These tortured feelings were too painful to bear. When she proposed breaking up, he readily agreed without hesitation, as if it were a relief. As if it were no big deal, just a fling, just a crush on someone with feelings for another. He told himself that in a long life, he would forget her eventually. His mouth claimed he would forget, his heart claimed he would forget, yet countless sleepless nights and restless dreams reminded him ceaselessly that forgetting her was merely self-deception. No matter how long he lived, he could never forget her, no matter who she loved. He loved only her, or more precisely, he was in love with her. Qing Jinlan leaned against his shoulder, hiding her face from his view. Her endless tears seeped through his white shirt, dampening his warm skin. Sweat beaded her flushed face, and her muffled voice caught with emotion. What's so bad about how things turned out? I have Qing Liqui now, she's priceless. Xiao Qingzi's thumb gently caressed the skin behind her ear. His eyes were gentle, you're right. I'm so grateful to Qing Liqui for bringing me back to you. He reached out to touch her face, growing wetter by the moment. All he could do was hold her tighter, but whenever I think about you going through the pregnancy and raising Qing Liqui alone all this time, moments that I should have shared with you, I just want you to slap me a few times. Please don't cry anymore. If you're upset, just hit me to let it out. Don't keep it bottled up. Qing Jinlan's voice caught on a sob. Why don't you hit yourself? Your bones are so hard, it would just hurt my own hand to hit you. Xiao Qingzi leaned to her ear. Then should I hit myself while you watch to vent your anger, or just listen to the sounds to make you feel better? Qing Jinlan quickly covered his mouth with her hand. Her voice was still muffled against his shoulder. You're so annoying. Xiao Qingzi chuckled lightly. He pulled her hand from his mouth and held it gently in his palm, massaging it. Meow meow, are you still unsure about me? Last night, you must have accidentally dialed me. I heard you tell your friend that you didn't know when we would break up. Qing Jinlan first tensed up, then gradually relaxed under his unhurried massage. Sensing her relaxation, Xiao Qingzi continued, can you tell me all the ways you feel uncertain about me? She had many uncertainties about him, both now and in the past. When they were together before, there were too many concealments between them. As time passed, those concealed doubts grew like a snowball along with the uncertainties, until she suddenly developed an uncertain certainty neither of them were frivolous people, so if this relationship was just a casual game, there was no need to drag it out so long. Did that mean his feelings for her were the same as hers for him? So she proposed breaking up as a test, wanting to lay their cards on the table. If they wanted to continue, what they needed was complete honesty, not more layers of concealment. But he didn't give her any opportunity to test or reveal their hands. Without a second of hesitation or doubt, he readily agreed to break up. This made her certainty into a joke, both about him and herself. Later that night, she learned his sister had passed away. She could clearly see his grief and despair as he held her and didn't let her leave. As he spoke of his sister's life and their breakup, she knew he was drunk and his words couldn't be taken seriously. But his red-rimmed eyes and barely suppressed tears made her wonder if they could try again. Her two fledgling certainties were immediately crushed, leaving her bruised and battered. She could pretend to others that she was fine, that it didn't hurt one bit. But only she knew the truth. After they reunited, he slowly eliminated her doubts and uncertainties. But a voice inside still warned her not to trust him completely. So when talking to Jiang Meng last night, she had casually said they might break up anytime. Qing Jinlan looked up at him, with shining tears clinging to the corners of her eyes. I'm uncertain about you in many ways. What will you do? LL news tirise at N0V/LBI/.cm. Xiao Qingze stroked her face. As long as you don't mention breaking up, I can turn all those uncertainties into certainties. What if I suggest breaking up? His kiss fell. I won't give you the chance to break up with me again, Jinlan. I've made some mistakes once, and that's enough. After a long time, Qing Jinlan murmured under his lips, in fact, no matter what the reason is, I'm a little happy that you bought this house and kept the things in the room. I often dream about these succulents. I thought they already had other owners. Xiao Qingze gently touched her lips. I'm also very happy to finally do something that makes you happy. I should have brought you here earlier. He immediately denied his own words. No, if I had known it would bring you so many tears, it would have been better not to bring you here. There are still other ways to make you happy. Qing Jinlan's dizzy head from crying slowly sobered up. She pushed his shoulder. I want to wash my face, it feels so uncomfortable. She had full makeup today, her face must look terrible now. Xiao Qingze heavily kissed the corner of her lips, then picked her up and carried her to the bathroom. He put her on the counter, looked at the bottles around. Which one should I use to help you wash? Qing Jinlan refused. You go out, I'll wash it myself. Xiao Qingze had one arm around her shoulders, and the other hand brushed over the bottles and jars, finally landing on a bottle labeled makeup remover. He had seen her remove makeup before, relying on his previous memory. He also found cotton pads, then squeezed some makeup remover onto them. This is such an old makeup remover, it's probably expired. You're just going to put it on my face? Qing Jinlan blocked his hand. It won't be expired. I just had someone prepare it this morning. Qing Jinlan. Close your eyes. The cool cotton pad fell, and Qing Jinlan reflexively closed her eyes. His voice rang in her ears. If you want to say that I have ulterior motives, or impure motives, I admit to all of it. Jinlan, I do have indecent thoughts about you, I never deny this point. Qing Jinlan was left speechless by his shamelessness. You should just be called Hooligan, this name suits you better. Xiao Qingze lifted her chin with his fingers and changed to a new cotton pad to wipe her other eye. You can call me whatever you want. Anyway, I'm under your management. His actions were too gentle, causing tingling over Qing Jinlan's body. Her fingertips curled on the cold countertop. Does it feel uncomfortable? Then I'll be even more gentle. Xiao Qingze's movements became lighter. Qing Jinlan couldn't stand his teasing. She grabbed his wrist and urged him, don't be gentle, be firmer and faster. Otherwise I'll just do it myself. At this rate, when will you ever finish? A low laugh sounded in her ear, and Qing Jinlan suddenly stopped talking. Xiao Qingze said hoarsely, then I'll be firmer and faster. Qing Jinlan kicked his leg. Shut your mouth. Her voice was nasal after crying, and her harsh words had no deterrent effect at all. Okay, I'll shut up. Xiao Qingze was very cooperative. But without sound in the enclosed space it was even more unbearable. She had just finished crying, and her throat would still twitch slightly from time to time. Mixed in with their overlapping breathing, she didn't know if it was the heat coming in from outside, or if the heat from her body had dissipated into the air. Qing Jinlan only felt she was surrounded by suffocating heat. She couldn't help but call him, Xiao Qingze. I'm here. His voice was hoarse like sandpaper. I'll wash it myself. Okay. Xiao Qingze said okay, but didn't let her go. Instead he carried her to the shower. As water flowed down, the bubbles on her face were washed away, and her clothes were also stripped off. He wrapped his arm around her slender waist that he could grasp with one hand. His lips and tongue directly probed into the depths of her throat. Qing Jinlan couldn't withstand his fierce and intense attack. Her body bent back with the utmost flexibility and leaned onto the white wall. The lights projected an alluring arc on the wall. Xiao Qingzi pressed against her curves, closely chasing her rapid breathing. Blurry mist filled the bathroom. Qing Jinlan quivered, her eyelashes wet with water, and whispered softly, "Unfair." "What's unfair?" Xiao Qingzi took her hand and placed it on the collar of his shirt. His lips didn't leave hers, and his low hoarse voice passed through the water curtain into her ears. "Whatever you think is unfair, just make it fair." Qing Jinlan shook her head. She didn't want to. Xiao Qingzi gnawed on the tender flesh inside her lips. He let her hand and unbuttoned his shirt one by one until reaching the cold metal. Something fell to the ground. Finally he asked her, "Is it fair now?" How could it be fair? Qing Jinlan was absolutely the suppressed side. From the sun high in the sky to the setting sun, she fell into the soft bed, already having fallen asleep. But deep inside her body there was still residual heat and numbness, lightly shivering. Xiao Qingzi hugged her in his arms, kissed her swollen lips, and gently patted her shoulder to lull her to sleep. Close to 8 p.m., Qing Liqui called. Xiao Qingzi answered. Hearing it was Dad's voice, Qing Liqui felt happy but also puzzled. She ran to her bedroom and asked in a small voice, "Dad, I called Mom's phone, how come you answered?" Xiao Qingzi gently replied, "Because I'm with Mom." Qing Liqui suddenly realized, "Oh Dad, did you chase after Mom on her business trip to coax her not to be mad at you?" Little Liqui is so smart. Qing Liqui was happy, "So did you manage to coax Mom?" "I guess I coaxed her successfully." Xiao Qingzi gently opened the bedroom door and looked at the person still sleeping in bed. He wasn't sure if she was even angrier now, after all he had been too rough just now. She wanted to stop but he couldn't stop. "Where's Mom?" "I want to ask Mom if you really coaxed her sincerely." Xiao Qingzi slowly closed the door again and told the little princess, "Mom is still sleeping." Just as he was about to head to the kitchen, a faint sound came from the bedroom. Xiao Qingzi returned, turned on the light, and walked to the bedside. Stroking her hair, he gently asked, "Jinlan, what's wrong?" "I want to drink water." Qing Jinlan was half asleep and felt terribly thirsty. She looked at the sky outside but the heavy curtains blocked her view. "What time is it?" "Almost 8 o'clock." Xiao Qingzi propped her up with pillows, then fed her water from the bedside glass. On the phone, Qing Liqui was getting anxious. She wanted to ask why Mom was sleeping this early. Was she unwell? She also wanted to ask who this Jinlan was. Wasn't Dad with Mom? How could he be with a strange girl? She called loudly into the phone, "Dad." Hearing the voice, Qing Jinlan opened her eyes. "Is that little Liqui?" "Yes," she called. Xiao Qingzi wiped the water from the corner of her mouth and put the call on speakerphone. "Little Liqui, Mom is awake now." Qing Liqui hurriedly asked, "Mom, are you not feeling well?" Qing Jinlan buried her face in the pillow and cleared her throat. She replied to the little princess, "No, Mom was just tired so I took a nap." Hearing the oddness in Mom's voice, Qing Liqui wasn't convinced. "Mom, you're lying. You obviously cried. Did Dad bully you?" "Dad said he went to coax you but instead bullied you." "I'm going to tell Grandpa and Big Uncle to go beat up Dad." Qing Jinlan quickly stopped her. "No, to coax Mom, Dad prepared a surprise gift for me." I was so touched that I cried. Qing Liqui seriously confirmed with Mom, "Really, Mom?" "Of course it's true. I'll show you the gift Dad gave me when I get back." Only then was Qing Liqui reassured. But she still had one more question. "Dad, who is Jinlan?" "I heard you call that name just now." Xiao Qingzi told her, "Jinlan is Mom." "Jinlan? Why does Dad call Mom Jinlan?" "Because she doesn't like being called Kitty, so I call her Jinlan instead." Qing Jinlan wanted to change the topic, but her body was sore and weak that she could not get up to cover Xiao Qingzi's mouth. Her mind went blank and she could not think of anything to distract them, so she could only lie on the pillow and continue listening to the father and daughter's conversation. Qing Liqui did not understand. "Daddy, why do you want to call Mommy Kitty?" Before her parents could answer her, she came up with an answer herself. "I know. Is it because mommy's crying sounds just like a little kitty cat's meow, soft and soft, so daddy calls mommy kitty? Xiao Qing's face, as thick as a city wall, was unusually embarrassed. Qing Jinlan pulled the quilt over her head. She did not want to say anything. Xiao Qingzhe earnestly explained to his daughter Liqui, meow is composed of 2 water radicals, with 1 water on top and 2 waters below, and is read with the second tone, meow. Why is she called this? Because the last characters of our 2 names are both water radicals. The top water represents mom, she's the head of the household, the 2 waters below represent dad and little Liqui. We have to listen to mom's instructions, and also protect mom. After hearing dad's explanation, Qing Liqui easily understood this character. She felt the name sounded so nice. Dad comes up with such nice names, and he also tenderly coaxes mom to cheer her up. Her fondness for dad grew just a little more. Xiao Qingzhe coaxed his daughter Liqui to happily hang up the phone and go to sleep. He leaned over to look at the person on the bed. Are you hungry? I've made dinner, get up and eat something before coming back to sleep. Qing Jinlan was not just hungry. At noon she had only eaten 2 red bean cakes, her energy and fluids were depleted after an afternoon, she was tortured until she was exhausted and finally fainted directly. But now she only had the heart to eat, not an ounce of strength to eat with. Her whole body to her fingertips felt soft and weak, her arms and legs too sour to even lift. She buried her face in the pillow, not really wanting to respond to him. Does it hurt a lot? Xiao Qingzhe pressed against her ear and gently asked. As soon as he got close, she would shiver reflexively. Qing Jinlan tightened the quilt around her body and looked at him coldly. What do you think? Xiao Qingzhe chuckled lowly, my mistake. His hand touched her back through the thin quilt, gently kneading, helping her slowly relax the pent-up soreness in her body. He was very good at massage, and controlled the force well too. Each point of exertion was pressed into her sore spots. Qing Jinlan clenched her lips tightly, not wanting to let the comfortable moan escape from her mouth. She wanted him to stop, but also very much wanted him to continue. With this technique of his, even if he truly lost his job one day, opening a massage parlor would surely bring in good business. The quilt was tossed to the side, his hand slid down her back. Do you want your waist massaged? Qing Jinlan buried her face deeper into the pillow, not speaking. Xiao Qingzhe exerted force with his hand. Meow meow, do you want a massage? Qing Jinlan couldn't endure the unbearable teasing. She raised her head to look back at him, her eyes fierce but coquettish. You're asking when you've already started massaging? Xiao Qingzhe's thumbs ground forcefully into her waist sides, her slender white neck instantly tensed, her thin back and slender waist arched off the bed, the sweaty skin revealed a pinkish white, the moans suppressed in her throat burst through clenched teeth, echoing in the room, bewitching and tender, enticing one to want to devour and destroy her, but also to cherish and protect her. Light fluttering kisses were like summer rain on the banana trees, along the snowy shoulders, pressed against the neck, wetting the earlobes, and finally returned to the corners of her lips. Qing Jinlan was held by him in a twisted and curled posture, her lips eaten into his mouth, her arms propping herself up on the bed, strength drained, slipping down several times, to be caught again by him. Hot breath blocked off her escape, her hands softly pushed against his chest, in the brief respite for breath, her voice trembled, interrupted, like a command and plea. Xiao Qingzhe, I'm hungry, I want to eat. Okay, we'll eat. Xiao Qingzhe sucked at the sweet saliva, mumbling as he responded to her, catching the soft hands pushing at his chest, grasping them in his palm, pressing them to the bed. With her upper body losing support, Qing Jinlan could only use his shoulder to lean on. Her powerless arms weakly hooked around his neck, the pink at the corners of her eyes oozed dampness, like dew on a rose, a gust of wind and the glistening beads of dew would shake and fall, refracting colorful brilliance in the sunlight. Xiao Qingzhe's hands held her waist, directly lifting her from the bed onto his lap. The black silky hair brushed the back of his hand, bringing out some ticklish sensations, arousing the swallowing sounds from his lips to grow louder. Qing Jinlan was burnt by these ambiguous sounds even to the roots of her hair. She was thoroughly annoyed now, grasping the hair at the back of his head with her hand, her teeth biting the tongue that was rolling and stirring in her mouth, barely tearing open a reluctant gap between them. There was anger in her starry eyes. I want to eat, not eat you. Xiao Qingzhe was stunned at first, then buried his head against her snowy collarbone, laughing out loud. How do you know if you don't taste? Maybe I'm tastier than food. I've already tasted, not tasty at all. Qing Jinlan's breathing had yet to steady, her soft charming voice still carried twisting passions, no matter what she said she couldn't work up any imposing manner, instead it was like ambiguous flirting and tempting. His dark pupils pressed over, Qing Jinlan tilted her neck back to retreat somewhat, trembling fingers warning him, I'm going to call Liqui to tattle that you bullied me, won't even let me eat a meal. This threat really wasn't impressive at all, also quite lame, but Qing Jinlan couldn't think of another way for the moment. She didn't want to die in this bed today. Xiao Qingze laughed louder and louder, his voice growing hoarser, you really scared me, I'm most afraid of Liqui. Qing Jinlan's eyes like a spring well also revealed some laughter. She straightened her expression, solemn and earnest, then let me go. Xiao Qingze pressed at her waist, pulling her close to him, give me a kiss, then I'll let you go. Qing Jinlan naturally refused. Just one. Xiao Qingze made his offer. Qing Jinlan looked reproachfully at him, saying in a small voice, haven't you kissed enough? Without even looking in a mirror, she knew her lips were swollen, her tongue still tingling and numb. Not just one, she couldn't even do half a kiss. Just as he was about to say something, Qing Jinlan directly covered his mouth with her hand. He certainly wouldn't say anything good, so best not to listen either. Read the latest stories on novelbin.com. Carry me out. She commanded, her body very uncomfortable, not wanting to move at all. This was all thanks to him, making him exert some physical effort was only right. His eyes narrowed, smile spreading, Xiao Qingze's lips gently brushed her palm, looking into her eyes, saying yes ma'am. The temperature on his lips passed through her palm, colliding with the heat still unabated in her body. Qing Jinlan shivered all over, resting her chin lazily on his shoulder, closing her eyes to avoid meeting his gaze, placing all her weight onto him, softly urging him, hurry, I really am hungry. Xiao Qingze supported her waist and back, easily picking her up. The soft black hair and silky straps of her nightgown partially revealed the faint red marks on her fair skin, flashing in and out of sight with the rocking motions, catching the eyes of those looking, unable to help but be unable to move their gaze away. Passing by the sofa, Qing Jinlan reached to grab a blanket from the back of the sofa, placing it around her shoulders, blocking the increasingly scorching gaze falling on her. Xiao Qingze raised a brow, smiling at her, so I'm a ferocious beast to be guarded against? Qing Jinlan lowered her eyes answering him, aren't you? Xiao Qingze looked at the red mark by her ear that couldn't be covered up. His dark eyes turned even deeper, he couldn't deny his roughness went a bit overboard. He'd better hurry up and fill her stomach, otherwise in her eyes he really would become a beast. The pot contained simmering tomato soup, pasta boiling in another pot, dinner would be ready very soon. Xiao Qingze set her down on a chair, brought her red bean cakes to pat her stomach first since she was truly hungry, the cool red bean cakes were the perfect pre-meal. The phone on the dining table buzzed with vibration. Qing Jinlan called to the person in the kitchen, your phone rang. Who is it? Qing Jinlan looked at the screen, Uncle Qian. Don't need to answer, just help me mute it. Oh. Xiao Qingze came out of the kitchen holding chopsticks, the pasta is almost done. Okay. Qing Jinlan slowly savored the red bean cake, giving him a look. What's the matter? Xiao Qingze walked over to her, she obviously had something to say. Qing Jinlan asked him, can you not go back? Although she didn't know who Uncle Qian was, likely someone from the company. He had handed in his resignation, but the board hadn't approved it yet, so the matter wasn't settled. Yet she didn't know who leaked the news of his resignation prematurely, now the stock price of Xiao Corp was steadily declining. Xiao Qingze replied, it's not time to go back yet. Qing Jinlan didn't understand, if the stock kept dropping it could lead to big chaos. Xiao Qingze explained, the Xiao family is different from your family. Your family is united, while the Xiao family is divided into factions, competing to see who can make the biggest sacrifice. The later I return, the more bargaining chips I'll have, and the stronger my position will be in negotiations. His voice was somewhat cold, making his gaze seem indifferent as well. But by the end of his words, the warmth in his eyes covered up the indifference. Don't worry about me. Even if I really do get kicked out, it won't be a bad thing. I can just become your full-time driver, it works out perfectly. Qing Jinlan finished off the last red bean cake, took a sip of water, and slowly responded, did I say I was worried about you? Xiao Qingze pressed his hand on the back of her chair, trapping her between the chair and his embrace. You don't have to say it, I can feel it. Qing Jinlan held her cup between them like a shield. Don't flatter yourself. The self-flattering person asked her, were the red bean cakes delicious? Qing Jinlan didn't answer. She knew what he was after. I didn't get to eat any, so I don't know if they still taste the same as before. If you want to eat them, go buy some tomorrow. Qing Jinlan kept the cup firmly to her lips, not giving him any opportunity. I can't wait until tomorrow. Xiao Qingzhe leaned in, enveloping the hand she held her cup with, and gently sucked on her fingers. Qing Jinlan's hand went weak, and the cup slipped from her palm. Instead of falling to the floor, it landed in his hand. With perfect coordination, one hand caught the cup while the other tilted up her chin so he could taste the red bean cake in her mouth. The strength Qing Jinlan had just regained by eating the red bean cakes vanished in an instant. It really is the same taste as before, not a bit different. Xiao Qingzhe seemed unsatisfied, lingering at her lips. Qing Jinlan bit his lip fiercely, panting for breath. Xiao Qingzhe, if I let you get close to me again, I might as well write my name backwards. You are insatiable. Xiao Qingzhe pressed his forehead to hers, giving her oxygen. I can't help it, I've been starving for too long. Whether Qing Jinlan let Xiao Qingzhe get close again that night is unknown. But the next day, she slept until noon. If not for an award ceremony she had to attend that afternoon, she probably would have slept until nightfall. After the award ceremony ended, there was nothing else on her schedule. Tang Yicheng was staying an extra day here to tie up loose ends. Qing Jinlan's plan was to have dinner with Jiang Meng tonight, then take an overnight flight back so she could see Qing Liqui first thing in the morning when she woke up. However, today's weather was poor and her scheduled flight was delayed. Xiao Qingzhe looked in the rearview mirror. Let's go back tomorrow morning instead. The weather report says the rain will get heavier tonight, the flight might even get cancelled. Qing Jinlan video called Qing Liqui and said to the driver, then after dinner, take me back to the hotel. She certainly wouldn't go back with him again. Xiao Qingzhe smiled. I guarantee I'll let you sleep well tonight. Qing Jinlan, feeling soreness in her waist, leaned back in her seat and retorted, if I believe you again, then I'm a pig. As soon as Qing Liqui answered her mom's video call, she heard this. Mommy, why do you want to be a piggy? Although piggies are cute too, kitties are cuter. I like kitties more. Qing Jinlan laughed in spite of herself. Mommy likes kitties more too. Little Liqui, the weather here isn't great, so Mommy can't come back tonight. I've changed to a morning flight tomorrow, so after your nap you'll be able to see Mommy. Tomorrow was the weekend, so Qing Liqui didn't have school. Mommy, can I come pick you up tomorrow? I don't want to take a nap, I miss you and want to see you sooner. Qing Jinlan's heart melted into softness. Okay, Liqui can come pick up Mommy. Mommy misses Liqui too. The car stopped at a red light and Xiao Qingzhe turned around to say to the phone, Daddy misses Liqui too. Qing Liqui giggled. I miss Daddy too. But then she thought of a problem. If Daddy comes back with Mommy, then I can't have Grandma come with me to the airport. I'll ask Uncle Shen instead, I just got off the phone with Uncle Shen and he said he's off tomorrow. It was obvious who she meant. Xiao Qingzhe tapped his finger on the steering wheel. Liqui, Daddy isn't coming back with Mommy. Daddy still has some unfinished business here and can only come back tomorrow afternoon. Just have Grandma go with you to the airport to pick up Mommy. Qing Jinlan's smile slowly faded from her lips. Qing Liqui replied, Oh, I see. Then I'll have Grandma come with me to get Mommy. With the problem resolved, Qing Liqui said bye to her parents and went off to practice piano. Xiao Qingzhe lightly cleared his throat and glanced in the rearview mirror at the person sitting there, explaining, I didn't mean anything else, just didn't want to be a bother to him. It was obvious who he meant. Qing Jinlan looked out at the rain outside the window, not responding to his words. The cars were backed up ahead, and the black car blended into the long line of vehicles, completely stationary. The only sound left in the car was the soothing music, while the rain grew heavier, with bean-sized raindrops pounding on the windows, making muffled noises. It was hard to say whether it was this tranquility that made people restless, or the standstill traffic that was more frustrating. Xiao Qingzhe tapped his fingers on the keyboard, slowly at first but gradually faster, before suddenly stopping. He turned around to look at the person in the back seat. Are you angry? Qing Jinlan moved her gaze back from the veil of rain, glancing at him breezily, before propping her chin in her hand again to look back out at the rain, showing him the back of her head. No. That meant she was angry. I do feel a little bothered by him. Xiao Qingzhe paused briefly before continuing, saying a little is an understatement. I'm very bothered by him. I know I have no right to feel bothered. All these years, it was him who stayed by your and little Liqui's side, filling in many gaps. I admit I was in the wrong just now. If it's going to be troublesome, then it's already been troublesome for a long time. Little Liqui is fond of him, I can't just come back and deliberately cut off the closeness between little Liqui and him. The rain was gathering more and more on the car windows, blurring the view outside. After a long silence, Qing Jinlan finally spoke, "You're quite self-aware." Xiao Qingzai reached over to take her hand that was resting on her knee, "But you have to give me some time, after all, I've seen him as my imaginary rival for so many years, my attitude towards him probably can't make a complete turnaround immediately." Qing Jinlan didn't jerk her hand away, letting him hold it in his palm. Her thumb rested on the back of his hand, stroking it lightly. Her eyes were still looking out the window, her brows knitted lightly. "Why do you think I like him?" She was close with Shiran, they grew up together since they were young. Shiran's mother was especially nice to her, even nicer than to Shiran. To her, Shiran was like Qing Jinchuan, she saw him as family, and she believed Shiran saw her the same way too. She thought of herself as not the kind of person to fool around with just anyone, and certainly would not give others causeless flights of fancy. During those years they were together, Shiran was overseas, and she had barely seen him a few times. She didn't even know where he got this conclusion from. Xiao Qingzai squeezed her hand. "Do you still remember where we first met?" Qing Jinlan thought about it, but there was no need to think, it seems to be, the parking lot at Guangxigu. Xiao Qingzai knew she had no impression of him whatsoever, even though they had passed by each other more than once. Not hearing a response, Qing Jinlan looked back at him. No? She was certain she had not remembered wrongly. Or was it that at that parking lot that day, only she remembered him, but he did not remember her? Qing Jinlan suddenly regretted answering this question. She should have just said she didn't remember, since he didn't remember anyway. She wanted to withdraw her hand from his palm. Xiao Qingzai grasped her hand tightly again, not letting her move. He looked deeply into her eyes. "That day, you were practicing confessing to Shiran in front of your friend." "I heard everything." Qing Jinlan was stunned. After a long pause, as if not understanding, she asked him again, "What?" Xiao Qingzai recited, word for word, the long spiel she had said that day, not missing anything. Sometimes he really disliked his good memory. After so long, he could still remember the confession she made to another man clear as day. Qing Jinlan was lost in his low voice. She had long forgotten most of the words she had casually said then. Hearing him say it out now, she somewhat doubted if she was the one who had said such cheesy things. Xiao Qingzai looked into her eyes. "Jinlan, after hearing you say all that, how could I possibly not feel bothered by him?" "The more you like someone, the more you would feel bothered." He had choked back his feelings, not wanting to say it out before, but now that he had said it, he was afraid she would get angry. All these years, it was Shiran who had accompanied her, he probably occupied too big a place in her life. Compared to Shiran, he should have no grounds for comparison in her heart. The standstill vehicles started moving slowly. The car behind honked twice, urging them to get going. Qing Jinlan came back to her senses. "Drive first." Xiao Qingzai also knew this was not a good time to talk. He looked deeply at her once more before turning around to start the car. Although there was still only the monotonous music in the car, the air felt somewhat congealed, yet it seemed to have lost the lifelessness from earlier. The car stopped in the parking lot outside the restaurant. The rain had lightened up a little outside. Xiao Qingzai got out of the car and put up an umbrella, opening the back door. Qing Jinlan stretched her hand out. Xiao Qingzai was a little surprised, but immediately grasped her hand, helping her out of the car. The two of them stood together under the umbrella. Xiao Qingzai shifted the umbrella more towards her side. "Call me when you're almost done, I'll come pick you up." Qing Jinlan lowered her eyes to look at the shirt button near his collar. "Meng Meng was my best friend in university." Mm. Qing Jinlan raised her eyes to meet his gaze. "When we were in school, she kept saying she wanted to meet you." Xiao Qingzai slowly caught on to what she meant. The bright look in his eyes carried a tinge of disbelief seeking confirmation. "Then why don't we take this chance today and let her get a good look? I should treat your best friend to a meal too." He had sounded her out about it before coming, but she did not give in, so he did not push. Qing Jinlan walked towards the restaurant. "She doesn't lack a meal you treat her to." Xiao Qingzai's lips curved up. He hurriedly followed her with the umbrella, grasping her hand again. He was pushing his luck and asked, "What identity should I appear with?" "Boyfriend?" Qing Jinlan replied, "Didn't you already introduce yourself to her yesterday?" Seeing the two people walking over one after another, the distance between them clearly abnormal, Jiang Ming's eyes lit up. Although they came separately, the gap between them was really too small for it to be normal. She winked at Qing Jinlan, asking what exactly was going on. She knew her instincts wouldn't be wrong. This person definitely wasn't just a simple driver. Xiao Qingzhe, Qing Jinlan introduced the man behind her, giving just a name and nothing more. Xiao Qingzhe followed up on her words, smiling at Jiang Meng. Hello, I'm Jinlan's boyfriend. Qing Jinlan's lashes fluttered. She sat down on the chair he pulled out for her, not denying it. Well truckers, that's all for this part. See you all in next one.